Good morning and welcome.
No.
Thank you for the coffee. Welcome to my fellow board members. We'll get to who's here and who's online soon. My name is Jane Dolan. I'm the president of the board and honored to be president of this fine group of people. So I welcome my fellow board members, staff in the audience, and all of you who are here in the audience or online interested in our proceedings. Appreciate that you're here. May I ask at this point if everyone who has asked to be logged on has been accepted? Thumbs up there. Okay, that's done. Thank you. Please know that our meetings are recorded. So to begin, I will call to order this meeting of the Central Valley Flood Protection Board, Friday, March 22nd, 2024. First step is to establish the meeting quorum. And with that, I will ask our board clerk to call the roll. And I'll say at this time, I usually ask the executive officer, but he is on his way to Paris. So I asked him what his priorities were. Mr. Knapp, roll call, please.
Member Bosler? Here. Member Countryman? Member Griego? Secretary Johnson?
I'm here by Zoom.
Vice President Valines? Here. President Dolan?
I'm here. So we have 6 members. One is online. Member Johnson, I'm glad you're able to do this, and I hope you're feeling better. And there is 1 vacancy of the board. Next up is announcements or introductions. I understand that there are some. Who am I to call on first? Usually the executive officer tells me. We have a new employee. Who makes that introduction? Mr. Wright, our engineer. Okay. Mr. Wright.
Thank you, President Dolan. Good morning. Michael Wright, Chief Engineer for the board. We do have a new staff that we'd like to welcome. She's a senior environmental scientist, and she will be working in the Environmental and Land Management Division under Andrea Buckley. Her name is Jordan Robbins. Jordan comes to us from the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board, where she has experience as a regulator in permitting in accordance with the Clean Water Act 401, methyl mercury standards, and CEQA compliance. Additionally, we're excited to introduce Jordan as the board's designated tribal liaison. Please welcome Jordan.
Please say her full name again.
She's standing up. Jordan Robbins.
Jordan Robbins. Ms. Robbins, welcome. Just one?
That's the only addition to staff that we have.
Okay. All right. So that's the introductions. Thank you for that. Do you have an announcement?
I do. I would like to give a quick presentation on a previous field trip that staff was able to go on. This was 2 weeks ago.
Can everyone hear him? Okay.
I'll get closer. Next slide, please. Staff was able to take a tour up the Sacramento River system. We were accompanied by, and special thanks to Megan Nagy, Tom Engler, Tony Diaz, and Lisa Sabatini, who somewhat escorted us and explained the system as we went around to various sites. Next slide, please. First, we went to Fremont Weir, then we traveled up to Knight's Landing and finally up to Tisdale Weir and then back down the river. Next slide, please. This photo of staff and the other folks that accompanied us. This is at Fremont Weir. Next slide. Unfortunately, it wasn't flowing. Tom said it stopped a day or 2 before, but that's the weir on the west side. Next slide, please. Fortunately, DWR was able to go out. This was February 27th and take some aerial photos. That's a photo of the Fremont Weir. You can see the big notch on the bottom. Next slide, please. As we traveled up the river, we saw various seepage areas. You can see the water on the land side of the levee on the left of the picture. Next slide, please. And we got to go look at an active boil. Next slide, please. That's a boil. It's not very impressive, but it was moving. It wasn't moving sediment or material. So they weren't super concerned about it, but they, continue to monitor. Next slide, please. We also stopped at Knights Landing outfall gates. Megan briefed us on the operation of those gates. Next slide, please. I'm not sure if they're currently operating. This was a new levee that is in Megan's district. It's a public law 8499 repair. It's actually a setback levee. The original levee is in the foreground. You can see it bends around. Next slide, please. Another shot of the levee, straight. Very nice brand new levee. Next slide. And then looking back the opposite direction. Again, the old levee is on the left.
Is that the river out where the trees are?
Yeah, yes. Next slide, please. And finally, we stopped at Tisdale Weir, which was flowing. It's pretty impressive. So staff was able to get out and see the system working and learn some, various facts about how it works. Next slide. And again, thanks to Megan, Tom, Tony, and Alicia for escorting us.
It looks like quite a number of our staff were able to go, so that's excellent. Thank you for giving that information. How many of you who are here today were able to go on that? Do you like it? Was it informative? Okay, we've got some thumbs up. Okay, great. Thank you for that. Any other announcements, Mr. Wright? Mr. Dua? Okay. Then I'll proceed with the review of the agenda. Before I start going down the recitation, I understand there's a change. Which one of you is going to say it? Again, Mr. Wright. Going to hear
Yeah.
from you today.
Michael Wright, Chief Engineer for the board. Staff is requesting to postpone item 10C.
I think it is that it's postponed. The nose has gone out.
That is
It's like
correct.
I'm
Oh,
watching a
I'm getting-
tennis match.
Oh,
between
sorry.
the two of you
I'm just,
here.
this
We
microphone is
talked
being,
last evening, Mr. Dewar. that
we
it's-
did.
That it's off.
Yes, it is. Item 10C has been postponed. There was a request by an adjacent landowner and the department, who is Department of Parks and Recreation, who is the applicant, graciously agreed to postpone that matter to a future board meeting. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for that, because I understand they're not here. Yeah, so we can't force them. Okay, thanks for that. So here's a brief review. Is this working? Doesn't sound like it. I got a green light, but it's not, I'll take yours. How about this? Nope. I'll just talk loud.
Now it's working.
I'll pretend I'm talking to my brothers. First up, we have minutes, and that will be for 2 months. Thank you, Board Member Johnson, for being so diligent about getting those. And I was secretary, and I will say you do a much better job and appreciate it. Item 5 is 2 consent items. We will get to description of that later. Item 6 is called public comment, and I'll remind everyone that these are timed, and you're welcome to provide comments. They cannot be for a matter on the agenda. You do that during the agenda time. And it's something we do not engage into discussion. Item 7, we note receipt of the submittal of legislative update assembled by our absent executive officer. Item 8, we will have a levy inspection, actually wrote inspective, given by the Army Corps of Engineers. Item 9 is one item only, and from the Department of Water Resources, and it's to note receipt of the monthly informational report, but we're always welcome to make comments and have questions on that. Item 10 is comprised of 3 matters now under board items, because 10D, as in done, is not before us today. Item 11 are looking at submittal reports of all of our offices and divisions Item 12 is for board members to give comments of any activities or committees that we have attended. Item 13, we just say we're going to meet again. Is there a closed session? There is no closed session, so there'll be no notice from the closed session, and then after that, we adjourn. It looks like some items may go quickly, but when I say that, they probably won't. So some might take time, some may not. But in any case, it seems to me that we're not going to be taking a lunch break. But there will be a time that it seems appropriate to have a break. I just don't know when, so be aware of that. So anything else for the good of the order, Mr. Wright? Mr. Dua? Okay, and I can stop. There's not. Okay. So we'll proceed. We're now at the approval of minutes. We have them for 2 months. Are you on, Board Member Johnson, to present those?
I am. Thank you, President Dolan.
Thank you.
This is one motion for approval of 2 sets of minutes, January 26th and February 23rd, 2024. I've reviewed them and I move that they be approved.
Okay, we have a motion to approve both by Member Johnson, the second by, I heard Member Gregg. She gets it. You can have the next one. Seconded by Member Griego. Any questions or comments here? Board members, no? The audience want to talk about minutes? Of course not. Please call the roll.
Member Bosler,
Aye.
Member Countryman,
Yes.
Member Griego,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson,
Aye.
Vice President Valines,
Aye.
President Dolan.
Yes. That motion carries. It is unanimous, 6 vote to approve. There is 1 vacancy. Thank you all. Our consent agenda, consent items are 2. And I will say what they are. Permit number 19696, Department of Water Resources, has submitted an application to approve this permit to remove an existing agriculture road crossing at the Thule Canal and to replace it with a concrete slab crossing. We have a report on that. It is in order. And item B is resolution number 2024-05, creating new boundary and levy units for Levy District 1 of Sutter. There also is a Levy District 1 Glen. So this one's got a full name. They can be removed if there's a question or need for discussion, board members? No? Audience want to remove either one of them? I see no one here. Any hands up? No. Okay. So the consent items can be approved with 1 motion. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move the
No.
consent calendar.
Motion by Board Member Bosler, second by Grego. Thank you, Member Countryman. Well, figure out how to get your name in the minutes in a minute here with the roll. Please call the roll on this to approve the consent.
Member Bosler,
Aye.
Member Countryman,
Yes.
Member Griego, Secretary Johnson.
Aye.
Vice President Valines,
Aye.
President Dolan.
Yes. Okay, go. There's a tie there with the ayes and the yeses because we have 6 members. So consent items are approved, unanimous vote of members who are on the board. We have 1 vacancy. So thank you for that. Item number 7 is a legislative update. It's a written report. Usually executive officer would say something about the highlights. Does anyone have any comments on that? I certainly appreciate that we get it. Very busy time for both national and state legislators. Board members? Nope. Anyone want to talk about the legislative report? We don't take opinions. Any hands up? Nope. Okay, we'll move on. Do we have our United States Army Corps person here? not to be introduced by them. Item number 8A, which is the only item under 8, United States Army Corps of Engineers item. It is the Middle Creek Levee System inspection. And our board staff, Zubair Dusso, will introduce it. Mr. Dosu, sorry.
Public comment.
Sit down. I'm sorry, gentlemen. I turned the page too fast. My mistake. Why would I forget that one? Public comment. As I said before, this is item number 6. I just went right to 7. I apologize. Those of you that thought I was going to ignore you, I would never do that. So this is for items that are not on the agenda. I see Mr. Gooley has indicated some items that are. But did you have something that you just wanted to make a comment, or did you want to be called at the time the agenda items are presented? So don't talk agenda items yet. This is just,
Public input. Go to the Central Valley Flood Protection.
okay. You have 3 minutes. Is that on?
Hello? Oh,
Oh,
there it
that's
goes.
on.
Yeah, thank you. Well, welcome board. My name is Dominic Cooley. I'm a civil engineer and land surveyor from Stockton. I represent numerous reclamation districts in the Delta, and I'm also a trustee for the Smith Tract. I'm here as a personal private citizen, not on behalf of those agencies that I represent. I'm here on my own. I follow a lot of the flooding in Stockton issues, and I just would like to update and present some issues. I request the Central Valley Flood Protection Board consider the SB 5, the 200-year level of protection for Stockton, because I'm talking about North and Central Stockton. You know, we don't have any adequate progress that we're moving towards getting it. We have the Lower San Joaquin River project, but that doesn't get us to 200-year level of protection. It's unclear if we can get. I know the district that I represent, I don't think we can get to 200-year level of protection. I may be wrong, but I don't know. But I think the money can be spent more effectively trying to get the 200-year level of protection and fix the problems that we really do have. As you can see, there's a picture there. That's what happens in order to build on a lot, almost any property west of I-5. You know, we have to build above the 200-year level of protection, and it's causing blight in Stockton. We've got vacant lots that developers move away from because as soon as you mention flood to somebody, it scares them away. So you know, we can't build apartment complexes like that building right there. And you can see our floodplain. This is the 200-year floodplain. It's all orange. That's greater than 10 feet. So you got to build according to that circled deep floodplain and build your houses up. And it just doesn't make sense. There's ways we can provide flood protection. Our levees in Stockton are, they comply with FEMA. It's good standard. We're surrounded by my levees in the Delta, which are a lot lower and weaker and will break in a serious event. So that'll relieve some of the issues with the levees if there are any. We've never had any major issues with the levees in central Stockton. But they do have issues with overgrowth and excessive sedimentation. If you look at the Calaveras River, we have bamboo growing in the middle of the channel, greatly restricting the flow that is required in there. And if you get to the end of the Calaveras River where it hits the San Joaquin River, seriously sediment impounded and needs some dredging. Interior drainage could be an issue. I've just started studying this sort of stuff, but like the Smith Tract, the Weber Tract, and parts of North-South Stockton, their interior drainage system is designed for a 10-year storm, which relies on street storage for flows in excess of the pumping capacity. And that can be an issue, street flooding. We haven't seen a 100-year storm. I've checked back, and the events that I've seen, the most we've seen is 1.38 inches or 2.52 inches in 2019 in 2 days, when 3.5 inches in 24 hours is the 100-year storm. So if we get a big storm, we're going to get some issues in the streets, and especially if one of the pump stations were to break down or one of the channels gets clogged. Anyways, I think FEMA standard is pretty good standard for Stockton. I do think that we need to invest in levees, but I think channels need to be cleaned and slopes need to be rocked. So again, consider if there's something that we could do to help Stockton. These residents don't have, we could use some help.
Mr. Gooley,
But
you're
we'd like
wrapping
to
up,
get,
right?
huh?
You're wrapping up, is that right?
Yes, yes.
You-
So
You've given
anyways,
us 17 pages here and 4 maps, so.
huh? Well, I have comments on the other
Okay,
items too.
no, we
Thank you.
have them. Thank you for providing those. Okay. Oops. Oh, I'm gonna say this name wrong.
Just like this type of information that was just provided to us would be good as part of the new update of the state plan of flood control. And I would encourage the presenter to make this information available to them, to that update.
Okay. All right, we have another request here to speak under public comment, Mr. Ryan Bogle. Mr. Bogle. Good
Hi.
morning.
Oh, sorry, yes. I thought you did.
You're on.
All right, President Nolan, members of the board, thank you for allowing me to speak today. I live in the Pocket neighborhood here in Sacramento, and I'm before you today. I recently received a notice to comply, and it's regarding temporary wooden steps that I erected on my property to access the levee on the land and water side. Some background, I previously had permitted concrete steps on both the land and water side that were removed as part of SRAIL 2 project in 2021. And as soon as that project was completed, I worked with my contractor, and I have submitted a new permit, and that is currently going through the process. That was endorsed by MA9 in February of 2023. So they've MA9, the operator, has endorsed the steps being in that location, and I'm currently working with staff on permitting it through the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. As of last year, I was just using a ladder to get up and down the property, and it wasn't until my daughter fell, almost broke her leg, that I decided to put up these wooden steps for safety. It was also around that time that I was told by board staff that due to the erosion project, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers would not be allowing any permits in that reach until after the erosion project in 2025. So we're looking at another 2 years until I'm going to be able to put anything up in that area to access the property. The access to the property isn't solely for recreation and leisure. I also have a boat dock, which I'm required, due to the conditions of that permit, to make sure it's free of debris during times of high water. Going up to that, up and down to the boat dock during the winter months without any kind of, access is, not only dangerous, it's bad for the levee. During that time of year, the levee's saturated. If I'm going up and down, which I have to do numerous times a week, I'm going to be creating ruts in the levee in that area where I'm accessing. I believe that's pretty much it. The stair that I did erect, it's not tied into the levee at all. There's no, I didn't drive any pilings to secure it. It's basically secured from the toe. There's 2 6-inch stakes, and then everything else is free floating. It's basically I can pull it up, and I understand I fully want to comply with the board, and I'm working with staff, and I'm going to work through this notice to comply, and it's 100% my intention to make sure that I'm in compliance. I just would ask that if there's any way to help with the process, and there's a need to be able to get up there to maintain. So thank you.
Mr. Bogle, we're actually not supposed to engage, but I would dare to say, because you came here today and provided all that information, our staff will be in touch with you to try to determine something.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Brenda Guston, Ms. Guston. Oh, I didn't see you. You're hiding behind that burly man.
Good morning.
I didn't mean to insult you. Or you.
No.
Welcome again.
Good morning. Thank you. Got my name right. Awesome.
I'm working on it.
So thank you again for providing this time for me to bring an update. I acknowledge and appreciate that a public hearing will be held regarding the American River Commons Features Project. Still unclear, however, is the process and procedure required to first have a workshop where discussion may occur. I and many citizens request your facilitation of an on-site meeting with your staff and those of the Army Corps to discuss how this project is living out the administrative directives of the Biden-Harris administration's nature-based solutions roadmap to implement nature-based solutions and the White House memorandum of 2023, which emphasizes that nature-based solutions should not be an afterthought in the climate fight, but rather a starting point for building resilience to ensure communities benefit from investments for decades to come. As this project is being designed, we seek clarity. What we have read so far does not carry out the objectives of nature-based solutions. We recently met with Dr. Todd Bridges, former Army Corps leader and founder of the Corps' Engineering with Nature program. Dr. Bridges speaks highly of the Corps' willingness to hear and collaborate with citizens when they reach out. We are reaching out. And we've invited Colonel Caldwell to meet with us and are inviting your staff to meet as well. We further request your work with the Bank Protection Group, TRAC, the Technical Resource Advisory Commission, and resident professionals and groups who have submitted letters and reports detailing the vital habitat threatened under this current proposal and providing solutions to minimize destruction. Our goal is to collaboratively implement the EWN program also directed by Brigadier General Antoinette Gant to be integrated into existing civil works projects such as this. This can be a successful project that ensures sustainable habitat for wildlife, all species, and recreational use of our wild and scenic river, while keeping the area safe for future flood events. Time is of the essence as we are witnessing frequent visits from Corps staff, at least we assume that they are, along the river. We look forward to meeting with you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. They do not go unnoticed. There are no other cards that I'm aware of. Anyone who did not submit a card that wants to say something about related to what we do, but not on the agenda? Sound a little bit like my own city council. Any hands up? None? Okay. And I truly can go to item 7, is that correct? Thank you all for keeping me on track. I can turn the page now. Item number 7, well, no, we're skipping that. I did that on inappropriate legislative update. We're on item 8. Take a deep breath here, and I'll be all right. Mr. Dosu, you're going to introduce this item of levy inspection. Good morning.
Good morning, President Dolan, Vice President of Alliance, and members of the board. My name is Zubair Dosu. I'm a water resource engineer for the board's enforcement section. Today, I'm here to introduce the Corps' Chief of Inspection section, Juan Gonzalez, who will give inspection results for the Middle Creek levee systems. There's also representatives from the local maintaining agencies, the Lake County, as well as Maintenance Area 17, who can speak to their respective levee systems. After the Corps' inspection presentation, I will give board staff's analysis and assist in answering any questions that you may have. Please welcome Juan Gonzalez.
Good morning, Mr. Gonzalez.
Good morning, President Dolan, members of the board. So there's another set of slides here. These are not my slides. There we go. Perfect. So I'm here to speak to you about the Middle Creek levee systems. There are 6 levee systems here that are in Lake County near Clear Lake that I'm here to speak to you about. In total, we've inspected about 13.7 miles of levee.
And then what I want to point out here is each of these systems are numbered, and so you can see the numbers on the map. And then on the left-hand side, you can see which systems are associated with those numbers. The system on the top with the yellow and pink lines, those Unit 1 North and Unit 4, that system in particular, 272, is active. And so just a little bit of preview. Everything else, all the other 5 systems are inactive, and we'll see that on the report cards. There is a pump station on the lower part of the map, denoted by that blue dot, and that's on the left bank of Middle Creek. The other thing I want to mention here before I move on, so we did inspect this over 5 days, 6 systems over 5 days. We did get participation by Lake County throughout the inspection, so that was great. Appreciate their participation. We got DWR at there, I think the first and third day. So I think on the systems that they were out there, on the systems, on the segments that they are responsible for maintaining, maintenance area 17. And I think we got board staff out there on the first day. So appreciate everybody's participation in that. We also did get Lake County comments, and so I'll go into that a little bit because there are a few pictures that I'm showing that they did comment on, and I'll elaborate on that. First of the 6 report cards, so we can see that again, there's no colors. We got rid of the colors, and so just showing that there are unacceptable items out here that we want to point out. And so we're talking about unacceptable encroachments in this system. This one here, Middle Creek Right Bank, Unit 2 North, is inactive. And then Middle Creek Left Bank, Unit 1 North, this is the system that is active. And so this is showing items that are at least minimally acceptable on this report card. Third report card here, Middle Creek Left Bank, Unit 5, and part of 1. This one here is inactive. We've got unacceptable observations within the encroachments, as well as the culverts and discharge pipes. And then Middle Creek Right Bank, Unit 2, we do have unacceptable observations under encroachments, as well as unacceptable under both segments here. And then the Middle Creek Left Bank Unit 1 South system, we do have unacceptable observations under the slope stability, erosion bank caving, animal control, as well as cracking. And then we've got this last system, Middle Creek Left Bank Unit 1 at Clear Lake. This one has unacceptable observations for slope stability, encroachments, erosion bank caving, depressions, rutting, and as well as some vegetation and seepage. So there are 4 pictures here that I've got up on the screen. These 4 pictures, I will go through them one by one and just talk about the input we've got from Lake County. And so the first picture here, top left, this is a picture that is on the upstream end of the right bank of Middle Creek. We did get a comment from Lake County about this pipe potentially, I think they stated that the pipe was outside of the levee limits. We did look at the as-built drawings, and we found that this levee ties into high ground. And so this pipe is not at the high ground. This is clearly an embankment. And so we just want to bring the attention to this pipe. It is open on both ends, and so there's an open conduit here. Photo 2, this is a picture of, we've got a diversion structure that's within the channel on Clover Creek. This picture, picture 2, this is actually an outlet works. So we've got 6 pipes here, 36-inch pipes passing that allow water to go into the old Clover Creek. And so there is, I guess, the two components, the in-channel weir as well as these outlet works. These outlet works are part of the federal project. And so in particular, we can't see it, but there is a pipe here that's submerged. All 6 pipes are obviously submerged, but the third pipe from the left has some deterioration within the pipe itself. That was flagged during a pipe inspection that I believe USIP identified as urgent. There is a picture in the report that shows the water side. There's a plate, but it's not completely sealed, and so there's still a way for water to get around that. Picture 3, this is on, I believe sorry, give me a minute. This is on the right bank of Clover Creek, downstream end of Clover Creek. And so this is an open pipe. This is, again, near the end of the levee segment, but it is open on both sides. It's hard to tell from picture 3 the scale of this pipe, but it is a 36-inch pipe. So it is open. And we did get a comment on picture 3 from Lake County. They acknowledged that they are working on this issue. Picture 4, this is one picture of many. This is actually an erosion site that's about 3,000 feet long. This is on the left bank of Middle Creek, I think it's within the MA17 area. We didn't get a comment on this, but we thought it was significant enough that 3,000 feet and more than, I think it's 3 feet into the levee was significant enough to bring to your attention. That is all the pictures I have. If there's any questions from the board, I'd happy to take those questions.
Questions, board members? Oh, Member Bosley?
Yeah, I mean, we just don't talk about the Lake County levies very often, so I just want
Okay.
a refresher on like who's maintaining them. Is it the state right now, or is it a local reclamation? I just need a little refresher.
I'll go back to the map. So on the left-hand side, you can see where the last 2 segments on the bottom of the list, as well as on the bottom of the map. So the green, and I guess that's kind of pinkish and red. It's hard to tell on that screen, but MA17 is responsible for maintaining those bottom 2 segments, and then everything else is Lake County. Yes. So System 276 is entirely MA17, and then the green line right above that is also MA17. That's correct.
That is correct.
That would be Lake County.
I'm sorry if our transcriptionist didn't get me. I stepped away to point to the map. Does that help, Member Bosley?
Yeah, no, it's part of the system we don't look at. I haven't personally seen that many.
It is
What surprises me, it's part of our system, but then.
well, you joined, members of the board have been around for a while ago. This is part of the state plan of flood control. It's unique for sure in its location and just about everything else regarding.
Yeah, just wanted to thank Juan for his presentation. And we will go over the board staff analysis next. So
And your chart has colors.
yes, we are still using colors to compare the improvements between the previous inspection results to the current inspection. So when this is just to give you a heads up here. What you're looking at is a summary of the 10 levee segments that is comprised of 6 levee systems. So when comparing the inspection results from 2014 to the Corps' inspection results from 2022, it can be noted that each levee segment did improve in areas concerning operations and maintenance manuals, as well as settlement. So all across the board, they did improve in those areas. There was one levee system that did not receive any unacceptable ratings in items affecting PL 8499 eligibility. That was the levy system Juan alluded to previously that is now active in the PL 8499 program, and it's outlined in red on the screen there. All the remaining levy systems did receive an unacceptable rating and items affecting eligibility, such as encroachments, with the exception of the Middle Creek Left Bank Unit 1 South levee system. That levee system is maintained by both Lake County in the upper portion and MA 17 in the lower portion. The board staff is currently working with Lake County to address issues concerning encroachments, trespassing, as well as erosion. Ian Geocarius, the latest addition to the enforcement section, has already met with Lake County staff on site to collaborate with enforcement efforts to address these issues. There are 4 pipes that were rated high priority through the board's enforcement section's pipe priority pipe prioritization program, sorry. And those 4 pipes are currently in queue to be addressed by enforcement section. And to let you know, the Middle Creek levee system protects primarily agricultural communities, but as well as some residential communities, as well as the residential clear Upper Lake community. For being a rural county, they have done somewhat, they have done a very well job maintaining their levees for their limited resources. They've already indicated to the board that they intend on drafting or preparing a draft letter of intent with an approved draft letter of intent. All of the county's Middle Creek levee systems can be active in the PL 8499 program and receive federal assistance for storm damage events. So that concludes the summary of my analysis, but there are representatives from the county as well as maintenance area 17 online to give any comments if needed. Also, this would be the time to ask any questions as well.
Through the chair. Yes. Member Grego, question for Mr. Dosu?
Thank you. Thank you for the report. That's, you know, it's positive. It's positive news hearing that, you know, we're working with the county and in order to cure some of these problems here. I just wanted to ask, are those all ag pipes that we saw on the screen here?
I would assume so. The photos that you have seen, yeah, those are usually, those pipes are needed for farm use, agricultural use. So yes, that would be the need for those pipes. There is one particular system that was the Clover Creek diversion structure. And so that is, I believe, owned and operated by the irrigation district. So that may be for other uses too as well.
So when we have those agricultural pipes, there should be some kind of like agreement between the property owner and doing the ag business there and, you know, how they maintain a certain standard for those
Sure.
pipes. Is that happening?
Yes, so the pipes that you did see, those permits are a little bit dated. And what we would want to see as those encroachments need to change ownership and you know, maybe brought under enforcement, that they are issued new permits with current conditions for a pipe through the levee. So yes, they are a little bit outdated. However, they still have conditions that speak to the operation and maintenance of those facilities.
You know, to me, just observation for the last 4 years that I've been sitting on this board, if we were able to set aside encroachments, most of this levy systems would be in the insurance program.
Yes,
It's
you're
always
correct.
that way, and sometimes it's private property, sometimes it's utilities, sometimes it's, you know, private utilities. And all of them are never in a hurry to get these types of things cured. And so it really puts a burden on the local county or the maintenance area or whatever in order to, you know, capture them into the insurance program.
Yeah, that's a great note. Thankfully, we have a great county with Lake County and their efforts so far. They have reached out to the board and they are collaborating to address enforcement issues. And so we do foresee a better day for this
Good.
levy system to have all those levy systems to be active in the PL 8499 program.
That's good news. Thank you very much.
Member Bosler?
Yeah, my questions are along the same lines, really around the encroachments, and so we definitely saw the ag pipes. Do we know if there are the nature of other encroachments and other sections are, or is it mainly just agricultural culverts and pipes?
I can't really recall off the top of my head, but pipes usually seem to be one encroachment that uh, are scrutinized more often, and you know that can be the reason for a levy system to lose its eligibility under the encroachment category. So that is one thing that we closely oversee and take a look at. But there are other encroachments on the levees. Of course, you know, there could be structures as well as anything else that is privately owned through those levees.
Thank you, and yeah, kudos to Lake County for making all these improvements and for our DWR friends as well.
When you say private encroachments, you mean they're not a public agency that put them there? It could be
Yes.
the irrigation district or something. You're
So
not
the
talking about a
distinction,
house, are you?
yes, so the distinction would be that an encroachment under this category would mean something that is privately owned, not a system feature, not something that's needed for the levy itself, for the purpose of the levy.
Okay. Thanks for that report.
Yep.
Anyone in the audience who wanted to ask questions? I don't see, it's all staff. Oh, Member Countryman.
I really don't have a question, but I have a comment. I think it would be helpful when the Corps makes these presentations, wherever there's an unacceptable item, there should be like a photograph that goes with it so we can better understand what's unacceptable and what's feasible to do it. Getting like 4 photos doesn't really cut it for me. I think we used to get more photographs, especially showing the unacceptable items, that I think encouraged us to move in the right direction. So I would ask the Corps to provide more photographs on this presentation.
Juan Gonzalez from the Corps of Engineers. Acknowledge that, appreciate that comment, and I just want to mention one thing we lose when we look at report cards and spreadsheets like this. We don't see the number of unacceptable observations, the number of observations behind that unacceptable or that acceptable or minimally acceptable, and so there are. Going back to Member Bosler's question about other encroachments that are out there. There are things like utility poles. There are certainly pipes out there. There are structures that need to be looked at. And so just we are looking at encroachments that are within the real estate of the federal project that was acquired for the federal project. And so it's not just on the levee, not on the slopes. It's beyond the slopes. And then going back to Member Griego's question, pipes that were up on the screen, the second picture, top right, that was the outlet works of the diversion structure. And so those are part of the federal project. On this screen, it's the fourth column, fourth system from the left, under the item culverts, discharge pipes. That's where those pipes land under unacceptable, and that's why you see that U there. And so those are part of the federal project. And then going back to Countryman's question about, or comment about pictures, certainly happy to show more pictures. We won't be able to show every unacceptable picture, but I guess just acknowledge that there's certainly a report that has every unacceptable picture or any pictures that go along with every observation, not just unacceptable. And so, yeah, just.
Visuals help. I'm guessing you have more than 4 pictures if you've been there 5 days. But we probably don't want to see the whole 5 days. But maybe we do. Good point. Visuals help. Wow, good morning.
Good morning,
didn't see
President
you come
Dolan,
in.
members of the board. My name is Ryan Larson, Chief of the Levees and Channels Branch of the Corps of Engineers Operations Division. Just wanted to address the comment on the photos and why we're here. We're here to, give you a summary of the results, to talk about this levee system that's sponsored by the Central Valley Flood Protection Board, and remind everyone that the levees of Middle Creek are a project, federally authorized project sponsored by the board. And then, here we're trying to give you folks representative photos of the things that we saw. Board Member Griego, your comments about encroachments. We saw three photos about pipes. That's a lot of the things that we see out there. There are absolutely multiple photos of absolutely everything that we saw, all of our observations in the report. The report's huge for these 6 levee systems. We're here to give folks a snapshot, to publicly talk about these levee systems, give folks other maintainers that are out there, representative things to say, oh, I might have some of those pipes like that in my levee area. I need to go take a look at that. Or, hey, we saw the picture of the erosion issues. Oh, that's what the Corps is thinking about when they're writing down erosion observations. If folks want to dive deeper into things, we could set up some sort of forum or some sort of workshop to dive deeper. I think in this venue, I think in this forum, we're just trying to give you guys an idea, an example of what we're seeing, so that the public can see those and then and move on to the other things, because we could be here for a long time talking about all the different pipe things that we see and all the different layouts and configurations that are out there. But we're just trying to give folks a snapshot.
Mr. Larson, thank you for that. And we do, I'll get to, we do appreciate that. And it's clear that our staff, DWR staff and Lake County are involved in this. So it's not like we need to give them an F as a teacher and say, go do something. It is being done. Just takes time and a bit of money. Member Greg, Member Bosler.
Yeah, no, for me, I think what would be really helpful is like a representative of each of the types of encroachments, if that's possible. Like, obviously, we know that there's ag pipes. I was just trying to get a sense, because I haven't had a chance to be out there, like what the other conditions were. Like, obviously we heard earlier in public comment about different types of encroachments. So just trying to understand what the challenges are. I mean, if it's just agricultural pipes, like that like bodes for like one type of communication and understanding with the local landowners about how to avoid this going forward and how to how to, keep on the right path for improvement. But if there are other types of encroachments related to other things, like it just requires maybe different approaches. And so I think I'm always with an eye of trying to understand how we can prevent like these things from happening again, in addition to like curing those things that we need to cure, which we know a huge stack to work through. So it's like that's kind of my sense of like the different pictures. It's like we don't need every single ag pipe that's there, but like if there's an ag pipe, but if there's also like unhoused population encroachment issues or other issues, like it's helpful to for us to understand the nature of the different types of encroachments.
Well said. Board members. Audience. Hands up.
To address,
Should we call on the representatives from the district or DWR? They're online is my understanding,
yes, that is correct.
and I don't see any hands up. Oh, I do. Mr. List, Mark List. Oh, and then Brian Johnson. I'm going to go to the member first, Brian Johnson, Member Johnson, then to you, Mr. List. And I don't think my mic's working. You can hear me? Okay. Member Johnson?
Thank you, President Dolan. I'll second what Board Member Osler said. And, as to Board Member Countryman's comment and question about more photos, I appreciate, Mr. Larson, your response. I'm not sure that it would take Board Member Countryman that much longer to look at 10 photos than 2 or 3. And so I think what I would suggest is, Joe, that you get with Chris when he returns, or other staff who are still here, to kind of clarify what it is you're looking for in the reports. I also have kind of the same instinct about having a hard time teasing things out, and then I would imagine that our staff will work with our partners to get you what you need.
I'm looking at staff. We're gonna get some nods here on that. Some of these take a deep dive, which we may not want to do at this point or at any other future meeting, but to know what's going on, how things happen, what's being done to fix them, what's being done to make sure we don't have more of these be created.
Comment taken. This is Zubair from board staff.
Are you
Enforcement
wrapping up?
section.
Because I'm gonna take Mr.
Yes,
List.
yes, just
before you-
really quickly, I wanted to provide a comment to address Member Bosler's comments and Member Countryman's comments on the reporting and showing more photos. What we can do is we do a good job in summarizing the pipes in the briefing summary and giving the breakdown of that. We can add additional encroachments to get the breakdown in their percentage and their impacts, as well as their ratings to the levies. And so as well, we can add more photos to the briefing summaries if that is something that the board members would like to see going forward. So we will do that. We have taken note of that comment, and we'll provide a more thorough breakdown of the encroachments in those levies.
Okay, maybe not 60 photos though.
Yes,
Just for
maybe.
me. Mr. List, do you want to add to this conversation? You may. But you have to unmute. Oh, you disappeared. Did you withdraw your hand up? No, it's still up. Do we unmute Mr. List, or does he do it at his end? The little microphone has an X through it.
There we go. I believe that worked. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can. There
All
you
right.
are.
Thank you. Mark List. I'm a supervising engineering geologist with Department of Water Resources Division of Flood Management in the Flood Maintenance and Operations Branch, representing Maintenance Area 17, which is one of our currently 9 maintenance areas DWR operates and maintains. Sort of background in MA17 for the area we maintain, it's a undersized levee built on lake bed deposits with heavy peat. Very hard to operate and maintain. We actually have to drive it with an ATV. You can't put a truck on the levee crown. We note the issues in the inspection report. We utilize the course inspection reports to identify and complete needed maintenance, and many of the items that have been noted have already been addressed. There are still some issues that need to be addressed. Currently and recently, we've had high water patrolling that has just only about a week or so ago been deactivated. So we've had patrols on MA17 as we regularly do during flood season. The one thing I did want to mention, hearing that Lake County Flood Control and Water Conservation District's interested in an LOI SWIFT process, the department is more than happy to participate in that with Lake County. And in fact, we've been hoping that that would happen because we can't proceed unless we proceed together. And so we'll be in contact with Lake County in the very near future to try and arrange for an LOI process between the two agencies. And we are absolutely going to participate in that. As Board Member Griego pointed out, that's a important piece of our system function. Absolutely agree with that. And so we will proceed with that with Lake County, and otherwise continue to operate and maintain this difficult system to maintain. That's all I had, unless you have any questions.
Difficult, interesting, challenging. Yes, we'll look forward to that letter of intent being submitted. So thanks for emphasizing that there is cooperation for that to occur. Want to keep talking about it? Want to keep talking about it? Anybody else? Okay, one last time for comments. Any hands up? No? Board members are just looking at me. So the audience, all right. Thank you, Mr. Dosu. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Thank you, Mr. Larson, for coming. Always happy to see all of you. Item number 9 is a written report from the Department of Water Resources that they provide to us of monthly activities or information for us. I know we read them. Sometimes there's questions or comments. Are there? Any hands up? I know we've only been in session for an hour. The next item is going to take a little more than 5 minutes, I think. So I'm going to call for a break at this point. We'll get all organized for the San Joaquin Area Flood Control Agency's item that will come up next. So I'm going to say 7 minutes. Who's gonna do the time down for me? All right, a 7-minute break. Thank you. Now we're recording again. We will reconvene. No jokes about my lack of following time. Yeah, we're timing. But I was watching and listening to the conversations that were occurring, so those are always helpful to have colleagues communicate. So the board is back in session. We are now under item at item 10, which is called board items. And the first one is San Joaquin Area Flood Control Agency is going to provide us a status of various projects. And Dustin Sanowski is going to introduce this item and the presenters. Good morning.
There you go. Testing, testing. All right. Well, good morning, President Dolan, members of the board. All right, there you go. It's even better. My name is Dustin Sanowski. I'm a senior engineer with the Flood System Improvement Branch. It's my pleasure today to introduce Chris Elias, the Executive Director of SAJAFCA, the San Joaquin Area Flood Control Agency, as well as Chris Nudek, the Construction Manager for KSN. Chris Elias will be giving an informational briefing on the status of the SAJAFCA projects, to include progress updates for the Lower San Joaquin River Project Phase 1, the Lower San Joaquin River Project Phase 2 feasibility study, and the Paradise Cut Bypass Expansion and Multi-Benefit Project. And Mr. Dudek will be giving us a detailed update on the Smith Canal Gate project. So, Mr. Chris Weiss.
A lot of activity, a lot of important things. Mr. Elias, it's very
Morning.
nice to see you.
Good morning.
And welcome.
Thank you, President Dolan. Thank you very much, and thank you, and good morning, members of the board. Chris Elias is my name with the San Joaquin Area Flood Control Agency. Really pleased to be here this morning, and thank you very much for inviting us to present the status of our projects in the Lower San Joaquin River Basin. So with that, then I'd like to go to the next item on the slide. Okay, so by way of background, the San Joaquin Area Flood Control Agency is a joint powers authority and was formed back in 1995. And since then, a lot of things have been happening. We've done a lot of great job. The agency is governed by way of geography, for those who are kind of listening who are online and not very familiar with the geography, we're just about 80 miles east of San Francisco. So we are governed by 5 member entities, and each of those entities represented by 2 representatives, 2 elected officials. So the cities of Lathrop, Stockton, and Manteca are on our board, and they are represented by the 2 members from each of those entities. So is also the county. The county wears 2 hats, one for the flood control agency itself, which is the county itself, and then as also the entity that kind of conducts maintenance operations on behalf of SAJAFCA. And then there's a public member that's also on there that was appointed by the rest of the elected officials. So we kind of cover the gamut of elected and non-elected that provide direction to the agency. So our mission is to reduce and manage the region's flood risk. And like I indicated, we're governed by a 9-member board representing those various entities. So next slide. Before I go to the specific projects today, I wanted to kind of highlight the fact that the story of what we're about to present essentially is a story of a community that is in grateful partnership with the state, with our federal partner, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And when I talk about the state, I'm talking about both the flood board, your team, as well as the Department of Water Resources. And in all, we are pleased to report that to the board today that this partnership are aligned in our efforts to protect our community and also improve resilience to extreme weather events, some of those which we've experienced lately, and to strengthen our partnerships, and then also to promote environmental equity and justice, while at the same time making sure that we are also pursuing incorporating both natural and engineering features into our projects, recognizing that we cannot probably build our way out of the flows that are predicted to be encroaching on our neighborhood. So with that, the goal ultimately then is for us to ensure that we deliver projects that provide both environmental values as well as a social and economic viability for our community. So with that, so the first project in front of you today is the Lower San Joaquin River Phase 1 project, and that's mainly focused in the North and Stockton, Central Stockton area. What we have right there, I don't have a pointer, I think. Does this point? It does. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Good. Okay, good. So I don't want to point in your eyes, so I don't want to be sure. Okay. All right. So this is North and Central Stockton, basically where we are. And the project we are focusing on right now is this one. I'm going to come back to that in a bit. But this is part of a $1.4 billion federally led project. It's led by the Army Corps of Engineers to provide over 23 miles. Oh,
Million or billion?
oh, billion.
Okay.
Yeah, with a B. Yes. Well, yeah, covering 23 miles of levee improvements, up to including things like erosion repairs and cut-off walls, as well as setback levees where necessary, and restoration of channels. And then back in 2019, we signed a design agreement with the board, and in April 2019, and that was a good kickoff. And then since then, we signed a project partnership agreement in September of 2020, and for this authorized project. And since then, we've received well over $152 million in federal funding to continue to implement the project. So, we, as you know, when you have federal participation, you also have a local partnership. And the Department of Water Resources has been a great partner in this case, providing 25% of the funds. And recently we went to the voters to ask for our own assessment to participate in that cost share. And it was successful last June, and we're very delighted for the support we received from this board and the department. Very, very encouraged by the participation and enthusiasm which your board and the department brought to the table, because that was part of the success that we here to share today. And so with that, now we are marching on. So the first increment is this right here. This is called it's a dryland levee. It's about 1.1 miles long and is now under construction. Let me use that term construction in quotes. Because typically before you begin immobilize the heavy equipment, you have to do clearing and grubbing and then move out some vegetation out of the way. So last February, the Army Corps was successful in putting in place a contract to remove the Valley Elderberry longhorn beetle, VELB, and got them relocated to a mitigation site. So that is a good story, and that is construction in our own book. And then the next then is to go on then with the clearing and grubbing, and that's going to be taking place this spring. And then the Corps itself is getting ready to advertise for the main construction, the heavy equipment. So that is also coming along, and we're very delighted to see that that's progressing very well. So the second increment is in this area here, and that is called the Shima Tract. And that's coming up next. So it's in design right now. It's already gotten to about 30% design. So we are cracking. Meanwhile, we have the geotechnical boring taking place in this area, this Calaveras River here. And then as you are also aware from the story you're going to be hearing very soon, following my presentation here, we have the Smith Canal Gate project, which is right there. And that is part of the Lower San Joaquin River project, but it's an early implementation project. And the construction is about to conclude in the next couple of months. Next slide, please. So the next item we're working on is phase 2, the Lower San. So let me clarify that this right here is the boundary between phase 1 and phase 2. So the picture I showed you earlier is above this channel right here. This is the French Camp Slough. So, so the phase 2 then basically is, which is Western Ranch, which is southern Stockton, and then goes to through Lathrop and then to Manteca. So with this project is currently under study by with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. But prior to that, we entered into an agreement with the Department for Water Resources for the Urban Flood Risk Reduction Feasibility Study, UFR study. That study was completed in 2021 with a preferred plan. However, we had to kind of slow down a bit in order to bring on board the Army Corps of Engineers. And luckily, the next step that happened then was we executed a feasibility cost share agreement with your leadership here, and then in September of 2022. And that project is also on track now to deliver for tentatively selected plan of in January of 2025. So that's also tracking very well. And the story I also wanted to share here is that we're not stopping locally. We're still moving. So obviously with the support of the department and your board, and then with local participation, we've been able to raise some funds to continue to advance this project. And then that's why we're progressing to CEQA very soon. But very importantly, we had to couple up funding, both from development impact fee as well as from other sources within our system. And then the next piece of that local cost share, which is the next critical step, is for us now to go to the public, the residents that live in this basin right here, Lathrop, Western Ranch, and Manteca, to raise the funds to complete the package for our local cost share. And that assessment is going to them in May of this year. And we're again hoping and praying for the wind to be on our back and with your support. And we hope to get there again this year. So, but just wanted to kind of share with you again the importance of partnership, to help get us over the hump. So this study, again, like I indicated, is in progress. Our federal partner, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, has put forth $1.88 million so far in advancing that study. This is one of those that kind of fits the 3x3x3 planning study. However, there's a slight waiver that because we knew it was going to take longer than 3 years to complete the study. So, but it's in progress, and it will cost about $7 million or so to get completed. So obviously, one of the things we're asking our members delegation is to put funding in place to encourage our partner to progress with the study. Next slide, please. Okay, so the next item we're working on is the Paradise Cut Expansion and Multi-Benefit Feasibility Study. This is a project that we started, we entered into a funding agreement with the state last year, July last year, and it's a $3 million study. But there was a lot of work that needed to get done ahead of time, which included, coupling together an advisory committee, working with the farmers, the local entities, the residents in our area, to put forth an advisory committee that will support our board in advancing this project. Yes, we know it's going to be very challenging, just like in every other area, but it's very important that we enter into a private-public sector agreement, MOU, that was signed in December of 2022, that eventually led to the state coming to the table and then entering into this funding agreement with us. So the project itself, let me identify the Lower San Joaquin River, kind of orient you here. This is Lower San Joaquin River itself. Then as it's coming through, the intent is to move with all the flow down that's predicted to triple in the next 50 years or so, the intent is to move the wall of water away from the urban centers, which is right here. So move it away and then move it toward this channel right here, Paradise Cut, and then do some channel restoration in this area to carry the flow that's coming down and then take it all the way to the delta. So that's the bypass, basically. That's what we're looking at. So, and the effort is currently underway, and we have series of meetings and working with the neighbors and then also the department and the board to again advance this project. So we're very excited about moving this project forward as well. It is estimated to cost about $171 million. So, but the start right now is with the funding agreement we just entered into last year with the department. So that's ongoing. So those three projects together, like I indicated, essentially a testimony to the strong partnership with your board, with the state and our federal partners to really advance and protect our community and make us resilient to the risk of flooding. The next slide, please. So this is where I alluded to the project, the Smith-Carnegie project, which is an early implementation project. So, and we've been blessed to have a strong partner with us, a local partner, who is a construction management company, Jelson, Sinek, and Nudek, that have been really helping us to deliver on this project. So I'd like to take a moment to turn it over to Mr. Chris Nudek to come to the microphone and then tell you more about this exciting project. We're very excited about it, and I can tell you for sure, I have a lot of pictures to show.
Mr. Elias, before you leave, and Mr. Nudek, if you don't mind, Mr. Elias, I just wanted to take a moment. Thank you for all your kudos to the state and federal entities assisting on this.
Yes.
That is indeed our job, and we do that. But I want to congratulate you again and comment on the leadership that you have provided and the landowners and everyone else advocating for this in the Stockton area. Passing a tax measure in a local area is very, very difficult. The fact that you did it is that you really put some effort in and communicated very clearly to what needed to be done. So we're not the ones who could have done that. Can you imagine that? We're from the state, we're here to tax you. That would have been a zero. So it was your leadership, but it needs to be done. Otherwise, the project could not have gone forward. So thank you for that. As you know, I'm a member of your fan club.
Yes,
so
thank you. We do have a great team in
And
place.
you're obviously very modest, so I needed to say that your contribution was immense.
We have a great team in place that's
Yes.
led by, as you know, Scott Shapiro and Kim Floyd, AWA, surrounding and giving us, benefiting this project with their brain trust. And
Yes.
then our team in Washington, DC, I mean, it's like all around and Sacramento. So it's all
Putting all the
aligned.
pieces together. Good for you.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Nudek.
All right, thank you. My name again is Chris Nudek with Kelson Syndicate Nudek. We are the construction managers for this very exciting project I'm about to unfold before you. Member Countryman, as you've indicated earlier, you want to see pictures, well, pull out your popcorn. You're going to see them now.
We
So-
actually went there too.
Yeah, so you have seen it, and fortunately, this is a summary of what you've seen and kind of some background. So here's a picture of the area that's protected by the Smith Canal Gate. The Smith Canal Gate effectively is at the mouth of Smith up against the Stockton Deepwater Ship Channel, also known as San Joaquin River. You see the areas to the north is Reclamation District 1614, also known as Smith Track. Area to the south is Reclamation District 828, known as Weber Track. Then areas east, right now the reclamation districts only extend out to this Pershing Avenue, but the flooding actually extends beyond that out to what's known as Yosemite Lake here on the end. You can see the areas in red are the unaccredited levees. Areas in green are high ground. The area in the yellow on the top is the Calaveras River. So I won't walk through this. Mr. Elias has already presented this. This is the Lower San Joaquin feasibility study. This is a picture of the improvements that we prepared and constructed over the last 3.5 years, known as the Smith Canal Gate Project. You'll see in the red, that's essentially the wall and the gate. The area here in the yellow is what's known as a Dad's Point. This is now a levee. It was a spit. We've improved that to a levee status, tied it into high ground back here at Lewis Park. And then the features we'll go through as we walk through the slides here. Ties into the golf course levee along Smith Canal, Smith Track to the north. I'm going to walk through these things relatively quickly. A lot of construction projects. This is the foremost year 2020 where the project was commenced. This is a cofferdam for the ultimate gate, and these are the pilings, 36-inch diameter pilings, which were ultimately the foundation piles for the gate structure itself. These are all still above grade. They were driven and then cut off once it was dewatered and dredged below that. But you can see the temporary cofferdam, the Z sheet piles around it. There's a seepage cutoff that runs along what would be the wall alignment to keep water from going beneath the gate, and then the foundation piles. Here we are dredging the inside of that cofferdam, which would then ultimately be the recipient of the gate structure itself. Here's an aerial view looking down. You can see those pipe piles have now been cut off. There's a bed of steel on top of them. And then this will be the commencement of construction of the actual gate. To the top of the photo, you can see the first cell to the south. This is the start of the wall, and you'll see quite a bit of this here as we move forward. Here's another picture on the inside. A lot of construction pictures, but it's a pretty intense, we're talking nearly $100 million construction project. A lot of steel. These excite civil engineers. I don't know if they excite the board, but for those that are interested in seeing structural and walls, this is kind of what you see. You can see the guy working in amongst the steel. Here's another picture of one of the walls that supports the gate structure we'll get into a little bit further. Here's a picture of the completed gate. It's walls. The gate itself is in between these two walls. So this will be the opening ultimately, still encompassed in the cofferdam that's been dewatered to build the structure itself. You can see the formation of the wall to the right of the picture, and then the formation to the wall to the north. These are templates. These template structures are what the piles are driven around and held to get the shape. These are the first two cellular sheets, relatively round. As we move further on, they get a little bit narrower, and you'll see the structure as I progress through here. These are what's called the stop log structures. This gate structure has to be maintained into the future. So we have to de-water it, look at it, do maintenance work on it. These stop log structures are on either side of the gate. You'll see here them being lowered in place. It's de-watered now, so they're not really functionally doing anything other than just be tested and put in place. This is always a curious picture. You'll see upper middle, lower. Well, there's two upper middle. They're interchangeable. So these are the stop log structures that once the project's in place, which it is now, those will be lowered in place, and then the area behind it de-watered to maintain the gate. So it's an important feature. Here's the gate structure being trucked in. It's a 21 by 32 foot by 4 foot deep gate, very large structure. Here it is in place. It's a little bit hard. Some of these pictures are a little bit difficult to see. I'll kind of throw through these. Here you see them in relative terms to individuals and men. It comes up against, you can see the diagonal concrete structure that it butts up against and seals against on the bottom. Then they seal on either end. These are some of the turnbuckles and so forth that hold back that massive gate. Here's a gate in a completed condition. The picture was just taken 3 days ago. So the gate is open. The wall to the north and the wall to the south is complete. Even so much so as we even have our planting boxes along the upland side of this. So all these little white boxes are going to be planted with natural habitat and give some vegetative relief to the visual aspects of the wall. So you might ask why the color is blue. I'm not a fan of blue. That's a Tahoe blue. We're not in Lake Tahoe. We're in Sacramento, San Joaquin Delta. I live in both venues. I have a place at Tahoe and I have a place in the Delta, and I've never seen that kind of blue in the Delta. It was a public forum. It was a vote, and that's what was voted. But nevertheless, it'll turn green as time goes on, so it doesn't matter. Here we are in the process of driving these sheets. This was a project that I think if you read some of the prelude documentation, it's really first of its kind here in California, for the most part on the West Coast. Flat sheets are not driven in these cellular forms very often, and particularly in a gate form. The Corps of Engineers employs this type of technology quite a bit in the Midwest, in the New Orleans area. We heard all about that in the Katrina, Rita floods and the overtopping and all that. And the employment here is somewhat unique. These are 80-foot long, 85-foot long flat sheets. They're like noodles. Some say you're trying to drive these into a concrete, sidewalk, but they're very unique in the format of getting them into place. So they have to be stagger driven. You can only have them separated by 4 feet as you move down because they have to be functionally tied together as you push them down. So this is the process of driving them. Here's some that are driven, some that are not. There's diaphragm walls in between them that hold them together. Here we are backfilling in between it. Here's kind of a progress photo. So we had to build the south wall first in order to get out to the cofferdam to build the gate, because you have to bring concrete and steel and man out, a lot of things. So here we're in the process of building here in the summer of 2021. And you can see in this picture what looks like a bunch of pilings out here. These are pin piles that are driven in advance to put the template in place. So each time they would finish a cell, they would move the template to the next and the next. And the template was to get them originally driven into the form that you see standing up to the north there. Here we are a little bit further along, but this is fall of 21. We're not to the landfall yet, and we have to go build that gate. So we had a problem. We had to redirect the contractor. The construction manager had to take a fairly aggressive position, redirect the contractor to build a bridge. And this is a trestle. This was an issue. They didn't want to do that, but we had to get to this landing to build the gate during the winter of 21 into the spring of 22. So that's what was constructed. This is a trestle. The trestle allowed us to get out onto the north wall, south wall, and construct the gate structure, which you saw earlier with some of the steel. Here we're in the process of dismantling that and working our way back and finishing the wall to the south. So some unique findings through this project. We had the assistance of many of our colleagues, the Corps of Engineers, state of California, had a lot of people helping us. My team was made up of some world-renowned experts in both sheet piles as well as gate and construction, as well as gate operations and design for that matter. HDR was the design team on the gate, and it was a very, very, very meaningful team and well-heeled team. Here we are. We've made landfall. This is fall of 2022. We're now in the process of where we need to open the gate because this was a navigational channel. So at all times we had to maintain navigation through this opening. And at this point, the only opening was to the north. They'd started a little bit of the north wall, but all boat traffic was heading through that. Here we are completed. So it kind of gives you a perspective. Once the gate was open, we could finish the north wall. These white protection piles are to keep any errant ship traffic that's going in and out of the Port of Stockton from deciding to take a right or left turn and hit our brand new wall. Fortunately, I don't think it's set back off enough. A lot went into the design. This wall was originally set a little bit further to the west, a little bit further towards the channel. But due to seismic concern, we went from a Z sheet structure to this cellular sheet structure, and we moved it further because there was afraid that with seismic activity, it would slide into the deep water ship channel. That's a little bit of design elements. Here we are. You can see just some more progress photos. The gate isn't in yet. They've already started a little bit of the north wall. Here they've started the north wall. Gate structure is not quite in. You can see the boat traffic traversing around on this. Let's see, where are we? Are we done with our slides? We're not moving forward here all of a sudden. Can someone advance slides for me? I don't think we're done yet. Okay. Oh, I went too far. Well, anyway, this is a good overview. So Dad's Point here in the foreground, golf course on the up left-hand side, gives you kind of a picture. I'm losing. Okay, there. That's what I wanted to show you. So some of the amenities were to build fishing docks for the public. Dad's Point was previously a park. It's being reverted back to that. We built fishing docks that you could land a 747 on, and then if that's not enough, you could put one on top of that. These are the strongest fishing docks, I think, in America. But they're there to last, and they were done in a manner that the public can utilize and get out into the deep water ship channel. So we always kid about that. Here's the Z sheets that were driven through Dad's Point that made that a structural levee section. And here's the sheet pile driving doing that. Here we are reconstructing the land behind it, putting a concrete cap over that sheet pile. Here's kind of a picture looking north towards the wall. The picture to the right, we're adding back in our access road back out to the gate. All the access is going to come from Dad's Point. Even though there is access from the north on the golf course, the golf course prefers us not bringing heavy equipment and interfering in golf play on that side, as you can well imagine. Here's what the north looks like. You can see that the tee was removed. I'm not exactly sure why so much of it was removed, but maybe that was a request of the golf course. This is a tee to one of their holes. We re-improved their golf cart path to get equipment up and onto the gate structure if needed. Some things you just have to deal with. And here's kind of an overview. It gives you a north-looking view. We got the Dad's Point, the 1614 levee on the golf course, the mouth of Smith Canal, and then the high ground tie-in. I'm going to wrap on this. This is kind of some of the project challenges. So this all seems like, why did it take you 4 years to build this little small gate structure and wall? Well, first of all, we only work 3 months a year. That was our in-water work window. Now we've expanded those to 5 months the first year, 3 months the second year. It went back and forth. But what was limiting us was the impacts associated to the resources and predominantly the fish. We had pile strike limits, typically 5,000 strikes per day. Even though most of these were vibrated in, we would drive them home to full depth. These are 80-foot sheets driven to -70. So They're 15 feet. The top of them is 15 feet. So about 50 feet was in the ground, down to stiff ground. Pile strike limits were up to 5,000 per day unless the water temperature got below 75 degrees. Well, if you're driving towards the fall, it gets below 75 degrees, you're now 1,000 strikes per limit. You might hit those at 10 o'clock in the morning, you all have to go home. So frustrating. Now, we worked our best. The resource agencies were excellent. We were on the phone with them at least once a week. Fish migration, we had seals. There's a big group of seals that hang out underneath the Port of Stockton's docks over here. If they got within, I don't know, 150 feet of the operation, we had to stop. Fortunately, like most fish and seals, if you're making noise, they're going to stay away from you, and they did. But that was just in case. We had to watch those. Other things, there was design changes, the unique characteristics of the cellular flood wall. Not too many contractors have done this, if at all, on this West Coast. So it was unique to getting that to get the means and methods down to construct it. The whole miter gate, just limited familiarity was kind of an issue that we ran into in constructing this project. Here's kind of what's left. So we're basically, here we are, we sit in March, we're finishing up the remaining work on the golf course, doing our electrical and communication, pathway, dad's point fencing, Project closeout is really beginning to middle of August. So we figure by July we'll be finished. We've commenced the submittal of the letter of map revisions to remove the areas behind the wall. And that submittal will be going in May with the hopes that by the end of the year, we'll have responses back and get a letter of map revision that will remove that area for mandatory flood insurance, which is a large expense to the homeowners that are paying for this. And with that, that concludes it. Hopefully that was enough pictures. Any questions? Sure. Well, Chris would like to add some.
Yeah. So one of the state's interests is to ensure that we all comply with SB 5, the 200-year level of flood protection. This project was designed to 200-year level of flood protection, period. And I also wanted to add that it does require other elements like improvements along the Calaveras River and then the dividing canal and all that to make the entire region 200-year level, to reach that 200-year level of flood protection. Thank you, Mr. Nudek. Yeah.
Very impressive presentation.
Thank you.
I remember when we went there and it was hard to understand everything that was going on, even though it was immense. So thank you for this. Member Countryman, were there sufficient photos this time?
Yeah, that was about right.
Okay, good. Well, I went through them as quick as I could. I didn't want to.
No, Gordon, we don't need that many photos.
We were debating about it before I got up here. I told him, I said, I think I'm going to overwhelm them.
So the operation is the gates just set open.
Correct.
99.99% of the time.
Well, not quite that much. And I don't have the percentage. We do have it because we are working with SAJAFCA and San Joaquin County Flood Control Water Conservation, who will be the operator, to talk about the general frequency. But it's based on an elevation 8 tide. So as you predict that tide, first of all, it's operated, exercise monthly, right? And I didn't talk about it, but there's high pressure wash sweeps down below. So any sediment that deposits on the foundation of the gate structure gets washed out first, and then the gate closes without any interference. But so that gets exercised, and then there's a prediction. If it is predicted to hit that, it closes. But it's a 4-hour closure. It closes and then it reopens, and it closes and reopens. So they monitor it because the upstream watershed has 8 pump stations that pump into it. So we want to evacuate that additional drainage if it's raining back out on the lower tide.
Who is the operator?
It would be San Joaquin County Flood Control. Yeah, San Joaquin is so we're in the midst of what we're calling a commissioning. We're in the commissioning element. My team is putting together the operational documents. The operation maintenance manual is put together by the design team, and we're helping the county implement it. I mean, really, you go up and you push the button and it closes, right? Well, there's a little bit more to it than that, but it's not a very complicated structure. but it's one that you have to, understand where all the electronics and how they fit. They're very strong members that close that structure. And if the limit switches and so forth don't work, you'll do more than close it. You'll crush them. So that all those electronics have monitoring devices on them and things of that nature. So that's what we're going through right now with the team. Thank you. All right.
Wow. Are there other questions?
No questions, just a comment.
Oh,
I just want to,
Roberto, yeah, questions or comments?
yeah,
or
thank you.
whatever. We
I just
have-
want to say,
wow.
I got to see this when it was, I think it was when I first came on the board, so that must have been 20 or 21. And to see it today, I really would like our group to go out and take a look at this as it finishes up. What a great project. And listening to Mr. Elias, I felt like I was reliving Trilla's experience.
Right.
And then finding out that you have Scott Shapiro and Kim on the team, you've got an excellent team. And the public-private partnership that you're developing is so, so important. I just feel like you've got the momentum on your side and things are going to happen. So very, very happy to hear this report today. Thank you.
Well, there's one thing I do have to say. I have to turn around. Larry, Ito, where are you? We did it.
Stand up.
We did it.
There you are.
There was times where, as we were constructing this, many of us said, we're not going to finish this project. What are you doing? All projects get built. There's lots of challenges. This was very unique. All projects get built. We did it. It's done. It's beautiful structure. It's unique for this region. I hope we can engage this in other settings because it's a different means of protection. It's not just levees, and it's more mechanical and so forth, but I think it's worth consideration. So thank you.
I just want to share with you that during the time of Three Rivers, Trilla, I did a lot of praying because of just not knowing if we were going to
Right.
finish the project or
Right.
not. But I even gave up smoking for 5 years. I promised God, please God, if you get this project done, I'll give up smoking. So
Good
I just
deal.
want to say that congratulations.
Well, I still drink, so I didn't give up drinking. So
Me neither.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Thank you. All right. Have a good day.
Wow. Any other comments, board members? I don't see any hands up here. Member Bosler? This is,
Yeah, no,
we're gonna go.
it's very impressive.
Thank you.
I mean, obviously, like, as we're thinking about how we build the ideal system, like, we don't always have the ideal conditions, right? And so here was a situation where we have infrastructure that is at risk, and so we needed to really problem solve in a very different way than if we had like rewinded 60 years, 70 years, and thought about how we might not be putting all of that infrastructure at the confluence of these rivers. So it's just, it's one of the challenges, I think, of this field is, and it's like, thank God for all the ingenuity and all of the complex engineering that we have. But it's also, it's also just like, that's not what we're solving for today. Like today, we know that we can do things differently and more upstream, but we don't always have, it's not practical. We can't relocate like millions of dollars of infrastructure and people and things. And so we have to think more creatively. And this was obviously like a really, long planned project and like very careful. And I love all of the like words you used about how like we just had to kind of figure out how to do this. And we're grateful for you, and we're grateful for the engineering ingenuity that we have in this field. And we also can do better in other areas where we don't have that infrastructure that we need to protect. So I think it's something that we need all of it. And like every situation, it requires us looking more broadly, which historically we haven't, about upstream solutions, et cetera. But in some cases, we have people and property that we need to protect now. And SB 5 made that very clear. And so we're thankful for these kinds of solutions that, where there was none before.
That's what it's all about. We have large cities that are vulnerable and a lot of work needs to be done there. No one's gonna move everybody out of Stockton. Think of that. You're, so, but you're absolutely right. For the future, we need to think, uh, for every project. It should be
Well, and it's
well-
exciting to be in the tranche towards 200-year level of protection. As an engineer, you know, we do a lot of 100-year level accreditation throughout the region. That's the first step.
Yep.
That's the most important step. That's what affects all of us in the pocketbook. When we're paying flood insurance, many of us are, we know that's the first step. The step to the 200-year is a big step, and many don't recognize it. You're like, well, what's it do for me? It doesn't change my insurance. But from a flood protection engineer's perspective, it's a big step, and it's a huge step in progress to be making that step towards the 200-year level of protection. The criteria that it takes to get to 200 years is substantially more. So this is a first step in that in this region, and we're very happy to be part of that.
Thank you for the presentation, gentlemen.
You're welcome. All right. Have a good day.
That was great. Is Mr. Dooley still here? You may not want to go anywhere because Mr. Dooley wanted to provide comments as well. Mr. Dooley?
Thank you. Yeah. I wanted to comment on some of Sajafka's stuff, and I'll try and keep it positive.
Save more than this.
You know, Allison Krauss says, sometimes you say it best when you say nothing at all. But I submitted my comments in writing and read them because they got some weight to them. And I do love looking at that pictures, and I wish that gate was super valuable. I used to work for Dutra Construction. One of those cranes in that picture there I used in 1992 when I built the Bacon Island Bridge. So, and it was a relic back then. But anyways, the two items for the San Joaquin, the Paradise Cut and the Lower San Joaquin River feasibility. One is included in the other, and I would like to see the Lower San Joaquin feasibility study, and to your point, Joe, to try and get it into the state plan of flood control. I'm a big fan of upstream storage. You can see the little cartoon there that I planned for trying to catch the water in Don Pedro, because I've worked in the Delta for over 30 years. And what causes the problems with us is when they send the big bubble of water down from Don Pedro. Okay, I mean, they let 20, 40,000 CFS out of there. And if you look at your Central Valley Flood Protection Plan table, well, pages 232 and 233, you see the table there that shows the Tuolumne River, Don Pedro, right now is 340,000 acre feet. And the 1% chance flood right now requires 513. So it's undersized right now. It's a problem. So I think fixing that problem in itself and going to this other number that 1 million acre feet is required, which is, this is a 2 million acre feet storage reservoir right there. But I think that's the way that we should be moving, fixing that problem, and it'll help all downstream. Phase 2 of the feasibility study, they already did this one time and it got rejected. I just quoted some things in there. Search EO 11988 in the environmental impact report, and it says the project's potential, and this is the project in Manteca and Lathrop to strengthen the levees and whatnot. The project's potential to induce growth makes it difficult to comply with EO 1198, inducing development in the base floodplain unless there is no practical alternative. There is a practical alternative, and that's upstream storage, like you guys said, and that's what should be done. And it has the multi-benefit of increasing water resiliency. I remember I was up here and Bill Edgar, I said, you know, you do this thing and you'll have the water contractors to pay for it. And he laughed, and I thought that was kind of funny, but it's true. And groundwater, underground is the best place to store water, but you got to have some place to, so when it floods, you get it out of the river system and put it somewhere and then get it into the groundwater. And then you can use it in times of drought. It's called carryover water. It's very good. And Joe, I will take up your suggestion to try and get it into. But right now, I would just like to get the Lower San Joaquin River feasibility study, get the Corps or the Bureau of Reclamation back into the business of building reservoirs, hydroelectric power. There's a picture of one of the last ones. There's a whatever they call them, a stored water hydroelectric power plant. That's what we need. That way you pump the water at night, make electricity during the day, and somebody makes money, and you have green energy, and it's all using water is a battery. So anyways, read my comments. Time will tell on all these things, but one comment on the lower San Joaquin Phase 1, just to point out, that first segment, TS30L, is a dry land levee, 1 mile, costs between 70 and $100 million. As a taxpayer, Chris jokes, everybody jokes about the darn the pier that was built, it can hold 2 aircraft carriers. But it also cost $1 million, okay, of my money. Well, not all my money, but the other thing is, Dad's Point, you could go out there, you could walk out there, you could launch a kayak there, you could fish right off the bank, you could set up a chair. Now when you fish off a pier, I've built a couple piers, you can't get the fish up to the top. If you catch a fish, you can't get it up to the top of the pier. You're gonna have to climb off the pier, go down, pull it in. Anyways, it is a neat project, but time will tell whether it's valuable or not. And I got involved with this whole thing because I just wanted to put a nice little sheet pile wall along the Smith Canal and fix the levee. So thank you for your time.
Yep. Thanks for your comments. Are we ready to move on? Member Bosley.
Well, I just want to kind of reiterate that, like, we know that these hardened infrastructure projects, like, we are doing our best to design them to flows we think they can withstand. It still does not preclude, and it should not, like, slow down our efforts to slow water down further up the system. Like, that's still something, and there's lots of ways to do that. Gentleman that just spoke talked about one way, but there's lots of other ways to slow water down up the system. And I think that, with climate change and the changes in the way our precipitation is coming, like, we shouldn't feel hubris and, like that we're safe now, like that's not necessarily, like, all of these things could really be impacted in negative ways. And so that I think that effort to slow water down further up the system is still something that we will continue to work on for the San Joaquin. I know I've had really great conversations with Chris about, he's like, we're at the bottom of the swimming pool in Stockton, like, so what happens upstream, like, matters a lot to the people at the bottom of the swimming pool. So that's still going to be something that I think this board, hopefully, and DWR and all of the local partners are going to continue to work on, to make sure that projects like this do what they're supposed to do in those emergency times.
Absolutely. Okay, anyone else? Anything? We go on? Okay, we've got a resolution of necessity and a presentation of board staff. You want to take a break? You want to just move? Got one move. So, okay. Item 10B. Andrea Buckley from Environmental Land Management will introduce this item. We're being asked to adopt a resolution of necessity, also known as eminent domain. And there's others there. So Ms. Buckley.
Good morning,
You're on.
President Dolan, members of the board. My name is Andrea Buckley, Manager for Environmental and Land Management Services for the board, and I'm here to introduce Board Item 10B, Resolution of Necessity 2024-06 to acquire property. As you know, part of the 2008 Memorandum of Agreement with the board, the DWR Division of Engineering Real Estate Branch provides real estate services to the board through the Sacramento and San Joaquin Drainage District. As part of those services, property negotiations for flood control purposes on behalf of the district are carried out by the real estate branch. If during the land acquisition process, negotiations with the landowner reach an impasse, the board may need to acquire property through the process of condemnation. The DWR staff presenting this action before the board today, we have Omar Fernandez, Associate Right-of-Way Agent with the Real Estate Branch, and Rachel Taylor, Attorney for DWR Office of Counsel supporting the DWR Real Estate Branch. And at this time, I will turn the presentation over to Omar and Rachel to begin the presentation for Board Item 10B.
Thank you, Andrea. Uh, Good morning, President Dolan, members of the board. I'm here to speak about the American River Common Features Sacramento River Erosion Contract 2 project. Am I in control of the slides? Yes.
Mr. Fernandez, maybe we can move the mic up a little bit.
Absolutely. Can you hear me better now? There we go.
Yes.
Okay, so during my presentation, I will provide the purpose of this presentation, the project location and description, the project necessity, the design, the authorities, subject property, and the resolution of necessity findings will be presented by Rachel. So the purpose of me being here today is to request of the board, consider the adoption of resolution number 2024-06, authorizing eminent domain to acquire flood control easement and subject property commonly identified in Sacramento County Assessor's Parcel Number 009-0012-018 for the American River Common Features Sacramento River Erosion Contract 2 project. Project location. So this project is located in Sacramento County. It's in the Sacramento River, starting just below River Mile 59 to River Mile 49. There's 6 site locations for Sacramento River Erosion Contract 2. Specifically, I'd like to point out to Site 1. Site 1 extends along the left bank of Sacramento River from River Mile 58 to 58.65. The site begins approximately 3,500 feet from downstream end of the old Sacramento flood wall and ends upstream of Miller Park. This project is to address critical levee improvements and meet erosion requirements along Sacramento River East Levee. The project design. So the bank along Site 1 is in degraded condition and has been identified as a critical erosion risk. Project will bring the area up to modern slope protection standards and will address erosion and levee failure, which is a risk to the Sacramento River East Levee, through the placement of 2.8 miles of rock revetment. The project is the necessity of this project. So Sacramento metropolitan area is one of the most at-risk areas for flooding in the United States. There's high probability that flows in either the American or the Sacramento River will stress the networks of levees protecting the study area to the point where the levees could fail. The consequences of such levee failure would be catastrophic since the inundated area is highly urbanized and flooding could be up to 20 feet deep. Project design. So this is also an image of the exact location of in question. Overall, the bank along Site 1 is in degraded condition. There's ongoing erosion upstream of the Pioneer Bridge. There's no berm at this location, and the steep bank, which coincides with the levee slope, is 50 feet high and encroaches into the levee prism. Other areas of significant bank erosion have been repaired with past with cobble, old riprap, and concrete or asphalt rubble. Bank protection will be considered at Site 1. Currently scheduled construction to begin July 1, 2024 through October 31st. And those erosion control bank stabilizations will be at Site 1, 4, 5, and Sump 63. And then I will pass it over to Rachel.
And I will move the mic down. Good morning, President Dolan and board members. I'm Rachel Taylor. I'm an attorney with the Department of Water Resources, Office of the General Counsel, and I provide real estate support for the board. So, next slide. Unfortunately, I have mostly words as the lawyer. So the authorities for the flood board is we're requesting an easement for flood control purposes. The Central Valley Flood Protection Board has eminent domain authority when you're acquiring in the name of the Sacramento and San Joaquin Drainage District under Water Code sections 8590 and 8593. I'm not going to read the rest of that paragraph, but it gives you the broad areas that you get to condemn for flood control purposes throughout your jurisdiction. Pursuant to California Code of Civil Procedure 1245-10, it also allows for the condemnation of property that is already dedicated to a public use for a compatible public use. This property is owned by Pacific Gas and Electric Company, which is considered a public utility. Also under California Code of Civil Procedure 1245-210 and 1245-220, takings are required in the name of SSJDD to obtain a resolution of necessity from the specific governing board, which is the Central Valley Flood Protection Board as the appropriate governing body. So the next part is that the property required, property being requested today is required for the project. Subject property is located within Site 1 of the Construction Package 2. The take letter was issued by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on February 9th, 2022. They identified this as part of their designs. The board did certify a supplemental EIR and environmental assessment for the American River Watershed Common Features 2016 project, Sacramento River Erosion Control Contract, which included the construction methods for this area in 2022. Subject property, the owner of record is Pacific Gas and Electric Company. It is commonly identified as assessor parcel number 009-0012-018, also identified by board parcel number 14971. The approximate areas for the easement is 0.728. The first written offer is required by Government Code 7267.2, was sent on December 22nd, 2022. And the notice of today's Ron hearing, as required by Code of Civil Procedure 1245.235, was sent to PG&E on March 6, 2024. I was asked to note a few things about this. As I mentioned earlier, this is a public property, so it's a compatible use for public use. There's already a levee on the site, and there are not any PG&E facilities. So our protection of the levee and the rock revetment is not going to interfere with their use of it, which currently they're not technically using it, but it doesn't interfere with their purposes for it. Other thing to note is this does not stop negotiations. PG&E has a very, very lengthy process for their property rights, which does not fit with the core schedule for construction. By requesting the resolution of necessity today, we can file the complaint and get a motion for order of possession, which also assists PG&E with their paperwork and for their tax purposes, and changes whether this is under condemnation as opposed to a willing seller. And I believe that would be it for PG&E. They did not submit written comments or an objection, nor did they send us a notice that they were going to attend today. So
there's been no response from PG&E?
well, there's been no objection.
No objection.
We called and confirmed that they
You do
knew.
communicate with
Yeah.
somebody there, you know, God bless you that you find someone. But they have not issued any objection to this.
No, they were aware of the hearing. They're confirmed that they received the notice and they're willing to let the process proceed.
Sometimes this is called friendly condemnation.
Yes.
Yeah, no, because the negotiations with any entity of that complexity takes time.
Yep. So those will continue, but this allows the construction to move forward.
Yeah, to wait for that would be waiting too long.
They're looking at 8 months just for the internal report before it even goes to the CPUC, which is like another 18 to 24 months. So it is a long process with them. Okay.
Well,
So
here we are.
So here we are. Okay.
Does that conclude the presentation?
Almost. We're just going to go through the findings.
Oh, the request. Okay.
And then the request.
We did our homework. Okay.
So the board is being asked to make 4 findings today. One, that the public interest and necessity require the proposed project. That was covered in Omar's presentation, that this is a flood control project that has been studied and approved through the environmental process with the Corps and the Flood Board. The second is that the proposed project is planned or located in the manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and least private injury. Again, we are fixing erosion controls on an existing levee, and we're not taking additional property for that purpose. 3, the property described in the resolution necessary for the proposed project. The property has been identified through the design plans and the construction plans from the Army Corps and has been described with the assessor parcel number, legal descriptions, maps, and the board parcel number. And 4, that either the offer required by section 7267.2 of the Government Code has been made to the owner of owners of record, or the offer has not been made because the owner cannot be located for reasonable diligence. The offer was made and a copy of it is included in your packets. Which brings us to the request of the board. The request is to adopt resolution number 2024-06, authorizing an eminent domain action to acquire the flood protection levy easement interest of land in the following property on Sacramento County APN 019-0012-018 for the American River Common Features Sacramento River Erosion Contract 2 project. And Omar and I are available if you have any additional questions or clarifications.
questions? Need for clarification? Board members? I see none. Member Johnson, does he have his hand raised? No. Anyone in the audience wish to comment on this? Any hands up online? All right. Are we ready for a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'm not going to restate it. The attorney made an amazing job with the findings that we need to make. Our staff put it out as more bullets than your four, so I appreciate that. And we have the list of attachments that have all of the wording and findings and necessary information to conclude. So
I'll go ahead and make the motion for the recommended action.
okay, motion has been made, for the board to adopt resolution 2024-06. Is there a second? Okay. Member Grego makes it. Got it in, Mr. Countryman. Okay. Please call the roll.
Member Bosler,
Aye.
Member Countryman,
Yes.
Member Griego,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson,
Aye.
Vice President Valines. Aye. President Dolan.
Yes. You got us all? I was trying to pay attention to that. All right. The motion carries unanimously for board members who are present and voting. We have one vacancy, so it's 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the clarity of the presentation, all of you. Yeah. Guarantee you, if you were in Butte County, it would take longer.
It would take longer.
With PG&E involved? Yeah. I'm going to welcome our operations branch to come forward. Hugo Yang is going to, the operations branch manager is going to be the MC of this presentation of activities of the operation branch. So it's still morning, so good morning.
Yes, still morning. Good morning, President Dolan and Vice President Valines and members of the board. Again, my name is Igor Liang, manager of the operations branch. Join me today, we have Mr. Steve Lamb, the manager of the permitting section, Ms. Angelos Caliso, manager of the enforcement section, and also Mr. Preston Shopbell, the manager of the inspection section. So I will start with a couple of introductory slides before handing it over to Steve, Preston, and Angelos in that order, for them to talk about a little bit more detail of the programs of their responsibility. And then I will come back to wrap up this agenda item and with a few more slides and that cover other special topics that the branch has been working on. The branch is operated with a common goal as shown on this slide. One thing I wanted to note is that there are a few words that are underscored, including the permitting, enforcement, inspection, and the phrase support local maintaining agencies. Each of these underscored items is associated with the program that this branch carries out for the board. Another thing I wanted to also point out is the word efficiently. To carry out all these programs, we constantly look for ways to improve our program's operation. So that's why we focus on those programs and we want to do it more efficiently. The section managers, they will provide update of their respective program activities, including for both routine operations as well as improvements to their programs. You note that the local maintenance agency support, that is a focus, a priority this board has. So we were going to have a new section, what we call deferred encroachment in compliance section, which is being formed. The function of this new section are currently handled by the enforcement section, led by Angelos, and she will be talking more about detail of the activities associated with this program. But with that, I will hand it over to Steve Lamb.
Thank you, Hugo. Steve Lamb, Central Valley Flood Protection Board Permitting Section Manager. Hello, President Dolan and Vice President Valines, the rest of the board. So I operate and manage the permitting section here at the board. Our goal is to protect the integrity and the function of a lot of the adopted plan of flood control for the public, as well as ensure that any encroachment that goes on, under, or through any of the adopted plans of flood control are appropriately permitted, follow our regulations, as well as coordinate with our partners, LMAs, such as the Corps of Engineers and the RDs and those folks. So we're comprised of, we have 5 engineering positions, and then I, as a senior, oversee them. Jillian, formerly with the inspections group, has transferred over to our group this year. Great asset, as well as Sagun. She's been with us for going on 2 years. Selena came to us in August, end of July, August. Humberto is our stable horse. He's just our front runner. He does a lot of the heavy lifting. He's been here for, I think, 5 years.
Where is he?
He's left to do work.
Okay. Yeah, his item got kicked.
And then we do have one vacancy with Deb Biswas, who was here for a good majority. Great loss, great engineer. He's now moved on to DWR. So we're looking to fulfill his vacancies. I've wrapped up some interviews. Hopefully we'll have a new body taking that position by the end of the month. And then we also have our permitting analyst. Chavez has graciously stepped into that role with Cassandra's departure. Chavez is wearing 2 hats, taking care of the intake, which is probably one of the hardest lifts as far as the permitting process goes. It's the tip of the spear where we take a lot of the intake in, receive checks from applicants, a litany of questions. Public outreach and support for that position is huge. So thank you, Chavez. I know you're back there.
Well, I didn't know that was how that vacancy was going to be handled. Good for us. Thank you.
So here I put together a chart over the course of a 12-month period showing the permitting backlog that is with our group. And I say backlog, I want to say permits that are under review or permits that are currently with board permitting staff. We averaged around 145 permits, which equals out to anywhere, depending upon the staff load, about 50 permits per individual staff member. We also, in that group, we take care of emergency requests, those maintenance requests, as Zubair and Juan pointed out for Lake County. Those requests for those repairs need to come through permitting to verify that they are being prepared and constructed pursuant to Title 23 and any Corps of Engineers regulations for the levees, operation, and maintenance. We do see a spike there. October, November, we had a batch of 30 permits come in at one point for residential development in West Sacramento. It does make a big spike in the chart because it is 30 permits. Those are being reviewed concurrently because they are the same sort of permit. So it's 30 permits, but they're being reviewed as similar to one permit, right? One review synopsis. And so that's the cause for the spike. Over the course of about the last 3 years, we've been maintaining approximately this 140, 130. Again, depending upon staff knowledge, as we get new staff, there's a ramp up curve, some entry level to understand how we do things, how we regulate, get their feet wet and get some progress going. So here's a snapshot over the last 2 months. As you can see, we've received 32 permits over the course of the month, or the last 2 months. May, over the course of the last 3 years, has been our peak. Last May, we received almost 20 applications. So we're poised and ready for what's coming in May and October tend to be the bigger pushes. Over the course of these 2 months, we had 13 permits delegated to the EO. 4 of them were scheduled to consent. We sent 7 transmittals to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, our partners, for review of federal levies, or what we refer to as the state plan of flood control. We received 1 letter of permission. I'll tell you that yesterday we received 3, so things are moving through the Corps. We issued 10 permits, and then I spoke briefly about authorization requests. Those are really those maintenance requests, the things that DWR might be repairing a pipe. We might have permitted pipes or permitted facilities that need repair because they fall into, like Onalis's group and the things that Juan pointed out. So we're taking review of those to ensure that they're putting back the way they were designed and permitted. And so we've received 29 of those authorizations over the course of the last 2 months. We've sent out 5, and we've conducted 6 pre-application meetings. And I really am proud of the pre-application meetings and the support that we get from the Corps of Engineers as well as our LMAs. We have them at the table along with the applicants prior to their submission. And a lot of the time that it takes to process a permit is a lot of times predicated on the quality of the submission. Are the plans correct? Are the plans sufficient for what we need to review, both hydraulically, geotechnically, topographically? Are there studies, the CEQA analysis? And then when we further transmit those to the Corps, are the applicants knowing what the Corps requirements are? Do they satisfy the NEPA requirements that the Corps requires? Cultural Resources Report, Environmental Protection Act, sorts of things. And so having these pre-application meetings are educating. And I really hope that people take advantage of them. They are time consuming. We dedicate about an hour of our time to sit with an applicant, most times virtually, and explain the process, give them realistic timelines of what our permitting process takes. So we've put this in place. It's been successful. Even the Corps has put it in place and it's become national. So I'd like to say we're a part of that. Hopefully I can say that, but it seems to be working. So additionally, we're looking at the online permitting portal. As I said, that the intake process is quite arduous and is the tip of the spear. It's what brings these applications in from the applicant, gets them into our database, and I'm hoping that we can utilize this to benefit the intake process, get our data collection more easily done. So this online portal, it has 3 specific goals: to streamline the application permittal, the submission process, improve the accuracy of the data entry, because currently it's all handwritten or typewritten that comes in paper copy, and Chavez and Cassandra, who the permit intake position, has to physically type in the information. And so we're hoping to streamline that. And also we're looking to increase the transparency with the public, those applicants and the LMAs. Did you get my stuff? Is it all there? And so we're hoping to database this in a more accurate fashion. So the function will be an online application submission. It has a portal in there that will assist LMAs in gaining that information from a requester to endorse the project. So the LMAs understand what types of encroachments may be going into their area of maintenance responsibility. It allows them to do multitasks through the portal. They'll be able to read and engage with the applicant, understand what submissions are being put in place if they choose to use it. Some LMAs might not want to be in the computer or do that. So we've Also included methods so paper copies can be easily transmitted to the applicant with all the data they're putting in. So we're trying to look multi-path on this intake to encompass everybody that has a hand in the intake process. So because the applicant will be inputting the data, what this is going to be able to do is push directly into our database and reduce the amount of data entry, potential errors that staff might make, and it'll also increase the time that the applicants are being sent in to by the time they're getting pushed into the database and assigned to an engineer for review and getting things underway. Additionally, we're looking to install a real-time application status tracker. A lot of our time, day in, day out, is requests from the applicants. Where are things? How are things going? They want to be heard, and it's difficult for staff to do their review job, put down their pencil, accept a phone call, which we do great at, but then we have to retool, re-engage, and get back into what we're doing. So the hope with this is to have a forward-facing dashboard for the applicant to be able to see where their permit is in the process. And if I can reduce 10 calls of the 100, it counts. If we can reduce it more, we're happy. But it's nice that folks might be able to take a look and see what their status is without having to pick up the phone. And so that's a big benefit that I think we get a lot of ask, and I think it'll benefit the public and our program. So the current status is the online submission is ready for what we call, Preston and I toy with it a lot. He's been a big asset in the development of this as well as Eguo. We're calling it beta testing. It's quasi-alpha testing. We're trying to break it. We're trying to figure out that if we roll it out to the public, is it going to be confusing? How do we present it to the public? There's a lot to be had with this. Is it going to work? Is it going to be all engineered and too difficult? Those are some of the things we're trying to make sure we weed out, but yet make it track functionally. And then the tracking functions I talked about, which is a really big asset. We're working with a flood system improvement branch to ensure that it not only fits encroachments, but also the flood system improvement tracker. So it's probably going to come online slightly after the release of the portal, but it is an important function that we're focusing on. Yes.
Member Bosser?
Yeah, have you had, I would encourage you to call the Office of Digital Innovation. It's called ODI. It's a new office in state government. And they are doing a lot across state government on user-centered design. And, you know, that's like sort of a buzzword, but it's really just about ease of use for the public. And so I think this is like a critical juncture where, and their services are free. They are funded separately. It's something that even spending like a couple hours or an afternoon with them, like showing them what you guys have, like in your beta testing, could actually help further improve it and make it even more easy to use.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to connect you. I actually recently met with them, so.
Fantastic. I appreciate
they're
that.
a very exciting group. And there's like 50 or 60 staff that work. in
Okay.
that office.
We'll definitely take a look at that.
Do they help individuals?
They are here to help state government transformation.
Okay, that's all right.
Which there's a lot of need across.
Oh,
This is like a little project. Like, honestly, I feel like even just a couple hours with them could give you guys some ideas to even further make it like more user friendly and more easy.
Anything supported for
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
Sounds great. And we would obviously like a demonstration too, once you've done all your.
Oh, you're for sure. I'm
Quality
excited about
control.
it. It's out there.
That's
So
what
here's
we
a few
have.
snapshots of what the portal has in it. I wanted to at least provide some product deliverable, if you will. We're pushing forward. We are looking to integrate the map viewer for some of the public use. We have a really robust map viewer that we utilize very frequently. I mean, I'm on it daily. It tells a lot of information, who the LMA is, what the stream is, where the federal levees are. There's a lot of helpful information in here that we can assist applicants with, and they'll have it at their fingertips rather than, again, having to make the call. We're always here to support and help, but if we can provide the data, then maybe it will reduce our timelines of dealing directly, and we can deal more indirectly and push out more. With that,
That, yeah, that sounds great and informative. It's certainly better than 2015 Google Maps. Are there barriers to releasing it to the public?
No, not right,
Okay.
not that we've seen, or
Yeah.
we're pushing it through, so.
Okay.
So with that, that concludes my presentation. If there's any questions, I'd be pleased. If not, I'll turn it over to Mr. Sharpa.
Questions, comments? Member Countryman?
I think that your efforts to digitize this, or what the right word is, online submittal is good, because even at best, with our people that we have that are working hard and doing things, it still takes a long time to get a permit. A very long time, especially when you add in the course time that they spend on the thing. So to an applicant, it seems interminable how long it takes to get a permit to do a rather minor thing. So whatever we can do like this, it can speed the process, is certainly welcome.
Thank you. Anything further?
You're working on it.
Kick it over to
I'm interested. Okay. Next up.
Good morning, President Dolan, members of the board.
Good morning.
I'm Preston Shopwell. I'm the manager of the inspection section and rounding out part of our operations branch. So for the inspection group, our section's primary purpose is relatively simple, but in my mind, extremely important, to make sure that the permitted encroachments that Steve and all the technical engineers and environmental specialists have worked through to get permitted are actually built and maintained according to their permit conditions and to Title 23 and to federal standards as well. So our group's pretty small, as you can see, compared to the other sections. We have 2 engineers currently. We have a 3rd engineer coming online in the next month. So Zach Ramsey's been with us since 2020. I think he came into the office the day that we told him to go home for COVID. So that was quite a day. And Josh Kaup joined us in September of this year. So, or September of 2023. So both very efficient, very qualified engineers. And like I said, we're getting that last vacancy filled very soon here. So our daily operations and our primary goal, this is sort of a snapshot of some of our metrics. Our section manages and tracks all the issued permits and those authorizations that come from the permitting section and are issued by the board or through executive order. Because we're a relatively small section, we also are helped by DWR's Flood Projects Inspection and Assessment section. Those are the group that before our group existed did all the inspections on behalf of the board. We're the primary source for all of the inspections, but since we're such a small group, we augment some of our services or some of their services with ours. So we schedule pre-construction meetings, we conduct site visits during active construction, or in support of any other programs such as enforcement, land, real estate, or any management requests. We're out in the field to check on anything anyone needs. For our inspection work, each project ends with a construction closeout report. So we're making sure that every condition was met. Final documentation was received by the permittee. That could be as-built, it could be compaction reports, it could be mix designs. All of that closeout documentation we put onto that same database that Steve was talking about. And then finally, we also, when we're doing that closeout report, we're also flagging when a routine inspection would be due. That's a new paradigm that we're shifting into, and I'll tell you about that program in just a second. These numbers here, you see the field inspection trips. We just kind of take a quick tally of, when we're hitting sites. Obviously January and February, we are in flood season, so construction is in a little bit of a dip right now, and lots of projects are ramping up for the spring. When stream levels go down and the construction season ramps up. So these numbers are a little low. And again, we have 2 out of our 3 staff right now. So that's reflecting to me sometimes, but not as often. And then those construction closeout reports, that's back to us, those reports to be reviewed, some of them, we're still waiting on some of those finalization documents. So those sit there for a little bit, and then we complete them and put them on file. So that's what that snapshot is that you see every month in your executive officer report. Coordination efforts. We do a lot of coordination with the current permittees. So right now in the flood season, we're processing those time variance requests. The permitting section does that as well. So there's that stipulation that you may not do construction during the flood season unless you talk to us. We're checking streams, we're checking reservoir releases and make sure it's safe for the flood control system. We're constantly talking with Department of Water Resources, Flood Project and Inspection and Assessment section, the group that's helping us to make sure that we're workload balancing, that their inspectors can help us where we need. We're not overloading them with their annual inspections that you just heard in January from them. We host monthly coordination meetings between Department of Water Resources Division of Flood Management, the Core Levees and Channels branch that Ryan Larson came and speak to you about, which includes the inspections from them. We also facilitate the LMA board work group discussions that tries to tackle some of those real thorny issues, whether it's policy or procedures that our partners and LMA representatives have brought to us. And we try to get those small groups together to get innovative solutions, whether it's an update to Title 23 or a more efficient process to help those projects become successful. And then finally, we coordinate with the deferred maintenance program from DWR. So that program, inspecting, fixing, repairing and replacing pipes either through slip lines or full replacements. We are reviewing those plans, making sure that there's newly executed assurance agreements, and that they've been talking with us on what that work is doing. So if we see a big hole in the levee, we know why it's there and whether it's authorized or not. So they've been great to work with, and we're happy with their progress so far. Okay, so switching over to the operational improvements. Our group is working on a routine inspection program. So this is a really, like I said, a shift in paradigm and to transition from a reactive approach of what we have done for many years with enforcement of there's a problem, that's what we're giving the attention to, resolving it and moving on. Encroachments that were permitted more recently from July 1, 2019, when the fees started being implemented. We also started putting stipulations in those permits that we were going to come back and go check on that permitted encroachment after it was done to make sure that it's still compliant, right? So that pipe is being maintained the right way. The retaining wall that was permitted did not grow into a retaining wall and fence and landscaping and 5 more things. So we're putting them on a routine schedule, and there hopefully is nothing wrong, but at that point we can direct them either to get those things permitted, take those things out, take the correct action to do that. So right now my staff and I are having weekly meetings to develop that program, to provide those guidelines for ourselves, and we're about to do the outreach for the first folks that are up for their routine inspections, to notify them, tell them what it's for, tell them what the fees are, get out there, check it, and give them their verification, either that you're good or that, you know, something needs to be corrected. So happy to develop that this year. And of course, this whole program is to help with the core inspections that you saw today, right? We see how often those encroachments are unacceptable. They can just be stuff that we haven't looked at in a long time and it just kind of slipped, you know, off to the side. So that's the whole point of it. And ultimately to improve that PL 8499 eligibility. Okay, the last piece was reclassification of automatic board order permits. Many of the board members that have been here for a while remember this issue. Maybe some of the newer ones we haven't. I have not given a briefing to it, but I fully intend to come back to you in the following months to dive a little deeper in this. I will try to keep this high level, but bottom line, automatic board order permits were permits that were issued very efficiently in the 1970s to assign responsibility for lots of encroachments that had no documentation or anything. Unfortunately, we found over time that some of those automatic board orders, some of the elements on that permit were issued wrong. They're actually part of the system and not maybe part of the landowner's responsibility. And this created issues for programs like the deferred maintenance program, where they are trying to fix a system pipe, not a farmer's pipe, and you have an automatic board order that maybe has that pipe listed on there. So the maintaining agency says, well, whose pipe is this? Whose responsibility is this? And it's up to us to dig through and kind of see what the records are, see what the usage of that pipe is, and start assigning that responsibility. The challenge with this program, A, you saw, I've had some staffing challenges to kind of push those through, and B, these aren't necessarily emergencies that we've been chasing down. These are important, but not life-threatening issues and not always prioritized. So we've had a little bit of difficulty continuing that program to resolve all the issues that these ABOs have created over time. But bottom line, I want to come back and talk to you a little bit deeper about this process in the next few months. We've learned a lot of good lessons for it. I think we're more capable, not just for our section, but I think for the whole operations and the board itself on how to handle those records and how to resolve them. So a lot of good has come of it, but we'll dive deeper into that soon. So I will leave it there for that subject right now, unless you have more questions about it.
Inappropriate permits done with a rubber stamp.
Correct.
So having information on them, on their stability and their ownership and their efficiency is impossible.
Yes, but the positives are it really gives our staff an ability to know which records to pull from efficiently and to help make decisions and provide recommendations quicker, so that we have, by the time we get to you to make a decision, all those T's are crossed, I's are dotted, and we can do that. And I will say, additionally, it spurred the need for the Title 23 update for administrative permit revocations, right? Our revocation process was very onerous in cases where there was no landowner that was dissenting or it was a problem. They wanted to wipe their hands clean of a permit that maybe shouldn't even exist. So that made that process more efficient, and that came because of how many of these ABOs seem to be a problem in our documentation. So
Your example there shows how old they are.
yep,
That's a manual typewriter that probably used carbon paper for the second
there you
copy.
go, 1974. So we're coming up on 50 years.
So
Yeah,
even if they went to microfiche, it would be very difficult to ascertain.
right.
So that's, that predates me, predates Mr. Countryman.
So that's all I had for the
All the
inspection
photo.
section right now. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Now, you said you had 2 engineers. You're not counting yourself, huh?
Well, correct. Staff engineers. I do
Oh, all
count
right.
myself, so 3 right now.
Boss engineer and 2 staff. Okay, got it. Thank you. Comments? For Mr. Shopwell here? Okay, thank you.
All right, happy to turn it
All right,
over to
thank you for
Honorable
that.
Scalise.
Thanks for putting that information together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And here's our enforcement queen.
I guess, let me see. It's technically afternoon, so 12 o'clock. So good afternoon, President Dolan, members of the board. Angeles Calizo, manager of the enforcement section here for the board.
And we are very grateful for that.
Thank you. And I'm thankful, I think Preston and Steve both kind of set up the platform for my group's presentation, so it kind of flows, I think, in good sequence. But the boards and the enforcement section here, it's our role and responsibility to carry out the board's authority under water code, taking enforcement actions, addressing non-compliant encroachments that affect the state plan of flood control. The enforcement process is designated to increase the level of enforcement with the goal of always achieving compliance at the lowest level possible. These sections' priorities continue to be with active constructions, pipes, and unauthorized excavation on the levee. The section is comprised of currently 4 full-time water resources engineers, and they're kind of shown there on the screen there. And we have one, Mr. Peter Thyber, who's a Department of Water Resources counsel. He serves as a staff counsel for enforcement-related matters for us, for our team. We do have one position. We had one position that has been converted now to a senior engineer that will be leading the new deferred encroachment section that Mr. Liang spoke about earlier, and I'll be speaking to it in a little bit more detail. But the team members are there are David Ismayan, Suber Dosu, Jenny Tu, and Ian Giocaris, who just joined us a couple months ago. Currently, the team, as Mr. Liang noted earlier, Zubair and Jenny provide assistance as well with the PL 8499 rehabilitation efforts, both the repairs, but also the letters of intent and the core inspections. And I will cover those a little bit more in my presentation. So the section metrics here for the last couple of months, a table there. So there has been with staffing changes and obviously reorganizing and changing, shifting priorities with some of the rehabilitation efforts that have taken up a little bit more speed over the last couple months. So the section efforts kind of has slowed down. In particular, issuance of enforcement actions have not necessarily continued in the pace that they were before, but that has not ceased the work that is behind the scenes, where staff has continued to work with respondents in addressing some of the existing enforcement actions that have already been issued. This section is also been taking a more comprehensive role in processing enforcement action. So when an enforcement action is taken, the yields and often results in some sort of permitting action. The section members are often leading and processing that permitting action. And then oftentimes as well, they will also provide the inspection services and inspection oversight for that particular work and the repair is happening. So for us, that's proven to be a very effective a tool and a way to do the process, expediting to limiting gaps in communication, but also alleviating some of the staffing constraints that I think some of the other sections may be helping to. So we're trying to help each other ultimately reach the same goal. So one of the things I wanted to note that for the table, so at the bottom of the list there, I kind of show the enforcement cases that are closed. So I just wanted to caveat that with when we report an enforcement case that is closed, it doesn't mean that it essentially has reached full conclusion of addressing all the corrective actions that were necessary for that particular enforcement action. So what that means oftentimes what tends to take the longest at the end is usually some sort of permitting action, like a name change permit or something like that that lingered. Or subsequent documentation to verify that the work was done to code. Compaction results, a full project full project report that is usually done after the work is completed. So some of those things kind of linger at the end, and so until those are received, the enforcement action kind of remains closed. So a lot of times we have cases that have been resolved. Right, the issue has been corrected, but we don't report those to you currently until they've reached the full conclusion. So-
Perhaps if you added a column that said number of times you have to contact the landowner, would probably show how much work you're doing.
We can do that. You'll be surprised.
No,
A lot of
I wouldn't.
emails and phone calls are happening. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So another effort that the section has undertaken since 2019 was a pipe prioritization program, and this program kind of began there at that time, recognizing that pipes through the levees kind of pose a high risk to the system. The other reason for that was that we already had some existing data that could be supported, could be used to sort of start that program and evaluate sort of the risk. Many of the pipes that we have through the levee system, have reached its useful life, in way past their useful life, but they continue to be used. And oftentimes, what happens is landowners begin and turn on their pump and they start running those pumps, and then they realize there's a leak and there's an issue. And so what we're trying to do with this program is try to identify some of those pipes that are probably that have reached or are already sort of at that point where they need some actual maintenance, some repairs to bring them back into code compliance. So we're not kind of jumping into these fire drills that I think right now we're currently under. So the pipe prioritization program essentially establishes a set of criteria that puts the pipes that are in our system, and it puts them through a set of different factors. And through those different factors, they include the diameter of the pipe, the depth of the pipe, so whether it's an up and over, where it's below the grade, and then whether it's like in your urban levee or in a rural setting. And so those all kind of get filtered out and eventually gives it a ranking. And so the intent is that we're tackling those pipes as they are coming up in the highest ranking possible. So again, using a sort of a high risk basis or approach to those facilities that we believe based on those factors pose the highest risk. Now, the data does also include data that comes in from the Department of Water Resources, Deferred Maintenance Program, you kind of heard about that. There's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of kind of work happening related to pipes throughout the levees. So what we're also looking at, and a lot of that information, it's getting fed into the Utility Crossing Inspections Program, USIP. And so we're making sure that all the information is kind of getting filtered, going through one central point. And then we are using sort of, we're all make sure that we're all talking to each other to some extent. So we're not duplicating efforts. So under this program of the 7,000 pipes that have been identified approximately within the 1,600 miles of federal levees, about 381 so far have been identified under the program, eligible under the program. And of those, 24 are currently under an enforcement action. Since 2019, 29 pipes have been corrected. So I would say that's a pretty impressive number. And with just 9 of those corrected in 2023. So the team was really busy last year with considering that we did half of the year was high water with a lot of activation that happened. There was still a lot of progress and a lot of work that took place late last year, much of the work kind of going into the late fall. So big kudos to the team for taking those on. Sure.
Member Countryman?
How does this program fit into the inspection program, which we just heard from the Corps about the unacceptable levies? Because mostly pipes, apparently encroachments. How does this program fit with that program?
So there's a little bit of an overlap. So this program is intended to focus on pipes that where there has already been an identification of some sort of deficiency, integrity issue, right? So these are pipes that are being picked up that the Utility Crossing Inspections Program has deemed them urgent, either because there is some sort of visual defect on the pipe already, where the Corps in some cases notes like an open pipe. It doesn't necessarily look at the other integrities. There may be some that are already identified in their program, but they don't necessarily look at the same thing, right? The Corps has their own criteria that they're evaluating and using for their assessment, and so we are looking at those that we believe have already some sort of deficiency that are going to be posing a more immediate risk, and we're using it through the program. The other thing that we do too is before the core inspection, Preston's team helps with gathering some of the data too that is already available. So video inspections that have been done or conducted either through an enforcement action or through the deferred maintenance program. If there are pipes that were recently video inspected, those all that data also gets submitted to the Army Corps in advance of their inspection, so that they also have that. If there is a levee system that they're inspecting, they should have. If we have that information available, we provide it to the Corps.
So if there's, for instance, if the Corps said it doesn't have a flap gate, this program is more internal to the pipe, internal integrity of the pipe versus something like not having a flap gate. Is that right?
Yes, I mean, it can start with an external feature like that, like a flap gate, but oftentimes what we're looking at is the pipe already has some sort of caving. There's either a depression on the levee. There's something else that's leading us to believe that there is something more significant happening. So through this program, one of the first things that we require as a first step is a video inspection that will essentially look at the integrity of the facility internally, because oftentimes some of the deficiencies can be seen externally. And so we found more quite often, a lot of the landowners, when we engage them, the first thing they say is, my pipe is fine. Look, it's running fine. And then we say, okay, well, just give us a video inspection. We'll get an assessment and get a better assessment of the condition. And more times out of not, there are significant deficiencies that are within the interior of the facility that warrant some sort of repairs. And so the requirement of a video inspection that is done through a NASCO certification, and NASCO certified inspector, gives us an ability to provide and require standard unbiased requirements for like what the condition of the pipe is and assessing the pipe more fairly for every single system that is out there. And so that is, yeah, so we found one too many times where that happens. It's the pipe is running, but it's the interior that is usually failing. And we don't want to wait to the point where it's actually failed right before we do that. So that's what the program is intended to tackle. Mhm. Okay, as Mr. Leong spoke to earlier, so we are very excited, probably more so than a lot of other people here. But the deferred encroachment compliance section is going to be it's a very welcomed program. We're very excited to bring it on board. But the intent essentially of this program is to bring on board and take over sort of the a lot of the effort that the enforcement section currently has been leading as it deals with the rehabilitation efforts, coordination with the Corps, letters of intent processing, Army Corps inspections, but also providing more assistance to the local maintaining agencies in an ability that we simply right now are very limited to do. So the intent is for this section is to provide a more comprehensive assistance to the local maintaining agencies, aiming to assist those that currently don't have a letter of intent, like Lake County that you heard about earlier this morning. They are a system that is severely understaffed, and they could use all the help that they could get. And so, part of our job and one of the challenges currently right now is deviating and providing that support that they really do need, but also trying to help them in the best way where they could maximize their limited resources to address some of those issues that were flagged by the Corps. So we're very excited. So currently there is recruitment under effort for the senior engineer that will be leading that section, and then hopefully with the 3 new engineers coming on board here fairly soon. So, yes.
Member
Is
President?
there a chance that we're not going to be allowed to add additional positions because of the budget process?
They've been approved.
They have been.
Whether there's a stop on it is unknown, but yes, recruitment has been authorized.
Yes.
I could text Mr. Leaf and ask him if that's true.
Yes, the positions were approved through BCP last year, so that's
I
correct.
don't know, what is it, 9 hours? No, it'd be.
So we are trying to move very quickly to get this position filled with knowing well that there could be that challenge. So we're going to try to get this positions filled and before the summer. Okay, so under the Public Law 8499, so another one of the routine programs that the section provides is under the system-wide improvement framework policy that you're probably very familiar with. It's where the Corps allows non-federal sponsors to regain eligibility under PL 8499. It's a 2-step process. The first step is submitting a letter of intent. And you've heard that quite a bit over the last maybe year or so. And so this last year, actually, 2023 was a very significant year for the board and for a lot of the systems within the board's jurisdiction. So we did have a total of 15 letters of intent that were approved by the Army Corps of Engineers, and that represented 22 levee systems. I mean, that is impressive. So that brought us to a huge change in terms of the numbers that we had been reporting previously. We still have about 46 levee systems that are currently inactive. There is one system that has a letter of intent that's right now with the Corps, with going through the review process. It's currently at the district level, and so we are hopeful that will be moving. It seems to be moving rather fast, so we're hopeful that we should have a decision on that in the coming month or so. So aside from that, we understand that there's other levy systems that are processing or intending to file a letter of intent. Those have not yet been received by board staff, so those haven't come before you for approval. But we understand that there are some systems that are seeking funding and are looking to develop those letters of intent. And so those might be coming here, and so that'll be changing some of the graphics that you see here in the coming months. As I spoke to earlier, the rehabilitation. So there's been a lot of activity over the last couple months in the rehabilitation efforts. So that you've heard a few presentations from the Army Corps of Engineers as well in terms of their progress and efforts and goals and plans to tackle the 2023 storms. So 2017, for the most part, all those repairs have been completed at this point. 2019, the Corps is taking an approach of tackling the 4 remaining sites that were part of the 20 that were damaged and approved from the 2019 storm. They will be tackling those as part of 2023 sites that they have thus far deemed eligible. So the Corps opened rehabilitation assistance for 2023 this summer. They did it in a basin approach, Sacramento, San Joaquin approach. I kind of provide some stats there on the numbers there. So so far, the Corps has deemed 27 sites eligible for rehabilitation under the program. That's in addition to the 4. So that would, bring us to 31, if I can do my math right on the spot. And so the Corps is working through those. The Corps has issued about 107 ineligibility letters for, well, not 107 eligibility, has issued ineligibility letters for 107 sites so far. And we understand that they have drafted the others. The other letters are coming. We just haven't received those, but they should be coming soon. The table on the right shows the sites that the Corps has deemed eligible so far. And so they kind of broke them down for you, how many sites with the parentheses and then the location of where they are. So staff is continuing to have regular coordination calls with the core staff, real estate staff, and the local maintaining agencies at this point. So biweekly calls are taking place regularly to address and kind of start planning with the calls of the Army Corps is very they have a schedule of trying to do the repairs this fall, or could get them completed this fall. So we know that they're wanting to move very fast. So conversations are happening. We are reviewing the draft proposed repairs at this point. So those conversations are happening, reviewing those, identifying utility relocations that'll also need to happen because those are also going to be a big component to the repair moving as planned. But the team is very engaged, and so are the LMAs, and so we're very excited, and we're looking forward to continuing to support the Corps in making and seeing this repairs moving forward as planned. Okay, so another big component, and you probably heard a little bit from Steve and then what Preston was talking about, but the database, the permitting database, it's sort of the heart and the heart of what the operations does, whether it's through my group, whether it's through permitting, whether it's through inspections. I think we all touch permits in one way or another. So this effort began back in 2019 after the development of the board's permit viewer or encroachment viewer that we call it, where we essentially just the data gets displayed spatially on a map. Kind of Steve spoke about it a little bit, but it's a map that essentially allows us to view all the data in kind of a one-stop, location instead of a Google Maps or Google Earth that we were using to before. Integrating some of the data sources as well so that we are seeing the information as best, as most accurate and as best as we can. But what that application did, it also highlighted where we had gaps. And so what it highlighted is that our database itself had a lot of entries and a lot of fields, and a lot of the information within it was missing. So we have records that go back to the 1900s, right, 1910. And very, very old records that oftentimes hadn't been cracked open for a while, very rusty, very sensitive documents, transparent. And so what we did is we began with a systematic approach of pulling every single file that is in our archives, pulling every box, dusting it off, opening up, and getting those digitized. So it's a two-part effort that we've undertaken. The first part is digitizing those records. So the intent is to try to have a full digital copy of the board's permit for that inquiry, for that request that came in. So the first part is digitizing that file, and that could include regular size plans, regular size maps, correspondence with different size documents, but it also can include large size maps. And so the staff right now, we have 2 students that are helping with those efforts that are fully dedicated to these efforts. Elena Tao, who's an engineering student, and then Julian Anaya, who just joined us late last year. And so they're both making incredible efforts in this effort. And we are also looking to recruit an additional youth aide to help us expedite these efforts as well. So kind of got sidetracked, but I said 2 efforts. So I said it was a 2-phase approach. The first one, digitizing, and then the second one is populating entries and fields into the database. And that is a critical part to the first one, because in order for our databases and for the information that, like Steve's, permit development viewer that is being put out, running queries, running reports, and all of that information is, if the data behind it is not accurate and the data is not there, it's really hard to make an assessment and to have an accurate report. So we're sort of teaming up and providing that information to allow us to be more effective in making some of those reporting, but also the data more accessible to staff. So we are very excited about what's to come. So far, just in the last couple months, staff has scanned 224 permits, so 224 of those permit files, and then they have updated about 250 permits. So they're making progress. We're about 30% of our 22,000 records in, but again, with renewed effort and renewed support, and we are always looking for additional opportunities to further enhance that program and elevate and expedite the efforts, expedite our progress. So we'll continue to be looking for those opportunities as well to enhance that and make more progress. So
How do you prioritize the digitization?
we're going in chronological order. So right now, the intent is we're going to start, we started a permit number 1 and we are working our way up. So we are currently at permit 1300 and change. And the intent was because there is, other groups are working with the permits as well. So for example, Selva and the other teams are pulling permits for different reasons. There could be Steve's teams that get to request for a permit that is not in sequence. So while we are working in a more, this team in particular is working in a more chronological order. There are other efforts from the other branches and the other groups that may be also touching permits. And the intent is we have developed, and I failed to mention that we have developed standard operating procedures manuals that'll give guidance so that if anybody else touches a permit or pulls a permit for another request that's not, it's not with this team, they should also be following essentially the same standard and the procedures that we have laid out so that we are further enhancing that effort as well.
So really, you're doing the most difficult first. So actually, it should start getting easier at some point in the chronological order, I think.
So we go from handwriting, very fluid, to manual typewriting.
Yeah, I mean, if
And
you like
hopefully
at
have
some
cover
point,
sheet, not the carbon copy.
you'd be surprised. There were some older permits that were actually very impressive. The level of detail,
Yes.
I mean, one of the plans that you see there behind you is actually one of the, the original. I think it was under like the 500 batch, the 500 batch of permits. And so the plans are actually they were very thorough and very detailed plans that we just never had access to. But it's impressive the amount of detail and information that is available in some of those historical records that we just had no idea that was there.
Well, it's beyond just being interested in it and, oh, look at this lovely writing and that. This is the foundation of the system. These documents that are in boxes somewhere.
Yes.
And then moved around. And so it's so important to have that so we know where we've been, what needs to be done. And the history of this system is something people need to understand and know about.
Yeah, we found permits authorizing the formations of levee districts and their original levee construction. So that was it was really neat to see some of the documentation as part of those files as
Yeah,
well.
I'm sure the description of where the property was located.
It's a little challenging, yes.
I've read old deeds and it's just like, from the oak tree to the yellowfin to the Jones farm.
There were maps. Luckily, there were maps. So we're doing the best that we can with
I
the
know,
information,
got-
but I think
yeah.
we're making good progress in
We've
terms
done
of
really-
that.
Yeah, I would love to meet the students. Give them a little recognition. That's
Absolutely.
pretty amazing.
Thank you.
Let them out for sunlight every once in a while, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Bringing in donuts once in a while too, keeping them sugared. So with that, that concludes my presentation. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Ewell for his portion of the presentation. Thank you.
Lovely as always. Thank you. Okay, there's 4 more slides.
Yes.
Are you talking about the broadband? Okay.
Yeah, excuse me. Igor Liang again. First, thank you all section managers for the nice presentation. I just have a couple of slides talking about I call special topics, but you can call special tasks that may cross multiple sections within the branch or entire board-wide effort. The first I wanted to just give a high level is the Mid-Mile broadband network, which has already been presented to the board a few times with a background. I'm not going to read that, but I just want to emphasize the work will bring essentially about 1.5 times of our annual workload, the permitting section. And also there's a tight schedule. It's going to be they'll schedule the construction will start beginning 2025, which means that they wanted the permit being issued by that time. And also the entire construction will end December 2026 by their current schedule, which will be requiring our involvement in terms of a construction inspection during that time frame. So the major activities in the last recent month, one is the development of what we call interagency agreement among the CDT, California Department of Technology and Caltrans and us. This agreement will allow us, the board, to receive funds for our inspection and future for our permitting and future inspection effort. Also, I want to mention that so far we received 18 applications from the Mid-Mai. There are more to come to us, and 3 of those 18 are being processed, and it's been posted for the EO delegation permit in March. So after 1 month, those applications, the 3 will be the first of the batch to be approved. And I want to also mention that staff from flood system improvement branch also helping us to process those permits. This is slide just showing a number of items that we don't typically talk a lot, maybe have not been brought to the board in our monthly EO report. I just wanted to show that kind of for the recognition purpose, but I don't plan to dive into detail for each of them, but if you have any question, I will be happy to address. So with that, that concludes our presentations. Actually, I'm happy to take any question. I will.
My question is, what does PRA stand for?
Yes,
That we
this is,
support.
yeah, Public
Records Act?
yeah. Is PRA is a Public Record Act request associated with that. So
That
we
falls on you?
our staff provide support. So that means this is
Oh, wow.
this is
Okay.
entire board wide. So that's
Got
how
it.
it costs.
Okay, got it. Okay. So much to do.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any comments here? What I think we need to do is give you a round of applause.
Thank you.
I know that there was effort put into doing this, and I could tell just a few of you are nervous, but not as nervous as I was at the beginning of the meeting when I didn't know where I was. So thank you very much for that effort, that information, and what you do. Don't be surprised if we ask you to come back and give us some updates. Yeah, impressive is the word. Grateful, important. So, thanks. Wow. I love that you do this, and I'm going to just send this video to everybody that wonders who or what we are and tell them how much we really do and why we need more financing. I see you're there in your suit and tie. Are you are you on the job today with the Water Education Foundation? Nope. Okay. All right, there we are. Informational briefings completed. Yay. Item 11, we have reports. One that we received in front of us or late last night by email from administration with the operations branch, flood systems improvement, environmental and land management, flood planning programs. We heard from almost all of you on agenda items today. So nice to see you all. Anybody want to talk about any of those? Mr. Countryman, he does the reading for us and sends things. So appreciate the staff answers so quickly. Any board comments or committee updates? Coordinating committee did occur this week. It was very informative, and the information presented by DWR for the beginning and the goals of the update for 2027 was probably something that will be coming to the board, but not immediately. And then two very lengthy tutorials from Mike Mirzwa on various federal levy issues. One of them actually cleared the room. Just saying. Okay, and anyone else? Yeah, a lot of things coming up in April.
I was able to tune in online. I'm sorry I wasn't able to attend in person, but there was a lot of really good information that was presented.
Yeah.
And
It's clear that it's good we do it online and in person, and we really want it to be in person, but it was about 31 in the room, 29 online, so
Yeah.
we're reaching folks that really don't have the time to travel or should not. Okay, upcoming meetings, board workshop on April 12th, and we'll be here. I don't know if we still need security to walk us in here. We'll see. That was interesting today. Did any of that clear up, or did you all have to be corded into the elevator? It was strange. And then our next board meeting for actions is April 26th in this place. No closed session. Does anyone else really want to be brave enough and say something? Meeting adjourned.